Chapter 1425. Seeing that the person sitting on the upper bunk had flipped out again, Ning Kai-dai pursed her lips and hurriedly pulled Yun Jian to the toilet. Then, she leaned over to Yun Jian's ear and whispered, "She's called Qing Jiaojia. I don't know which class she's from. Anyway, she got angry the moment she entered the dormitory. After greeting us, she sat on the bed and threw a tantrum. I don't know who provoked her, but I think she's quite difficult to get along with." Oh right, there's another roommate in our dormitory. I heard that something happened at home, so she'll come back a few days later. Also, don't take the initiative to talk to Qing Jiaojia. She's... Ning Kai-dai didn't say anything after that. After Yun Jian walked out of the toilet, she saw Qing Jiaojia standing on the upper bunk bed with her hands on her hips. She was holding a cell phone in her hand and shouting at it. Yun Jian didn't know who she was dialing. "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be a military doctor. I want to go home. Get the butler to drive me home." "What? Mom won't let me? I don't want to, I don't want to. I'm studying in this lousy school, and I'm not allowed to go home. I can't even hug my teddy bear to sleep. I want to go home. I want you to get the butler to drive me home immediately. Otherwise, I'll complain to Grandma and get her to fire you." Regardless of Qing Jiaojia's identity, one could tell from her clothes and the way she was shouting at the person on the other end of the phone. Qing Jiaojia was most likely a rich young lady. She definitely had some status. Yun Jian carried her school bag and went straight to the top bunk bed in the corner. She threw her school bag on the bed, then grabbed the handrail of the top bunk bed. She didn't even put her leg on the steps of the top bunk bed. With a flip of one foot, she jumped from the ground to the top bunk bed that was about 1.45 meters high. Then, she began to tidy up her things. None of the girls in dormitory 602 came to the military school to learn martial arts, except for Yun Jian. Every girl here was here because they wanted to study military medicine. This meant that every girl here was no different from an ordinary girl. Therefore, when they saw Yun Jian jump onto the bed, every girl present opened their mouths wide in shock. Even Qing Jiaojia, who was still throwing a tantrum, opened her mouth and didn't react for a long time. "Wow, my God! Yun Jian, why are you so powerful? Aren't you a medical student?" When Ning Kai-dai saw Yun Jian's move, she and Meng Xiaoyan walked over in surprise. The two of them looked at Yun Jian in shock. "Study medicine?" Yun Jian's eyebrows twitched slightly, then she shook her head gently. "No." "Wow. Are you planning to become a soldier in the future?" Ning Kai-dai continued to ask in shock. "Special Forces," Yun Jian answered with 3 words. "That's so cool." Ning Kai-dai shouted again. "Shut up. All of you shut up. Do you still want me to talk on the phone or not?" Qing Jiaojia roared again. This time, the atmosphere was completely stifled, and no one spoke. After tidying up their blankets and things in the dormitory, they returned to their respective classrooms. September 10th was the first day of school, and the students didn't attend classes on the first day. As soon as they arrived at the classroom, the homeroom teacher, Teacher Chu, announced a particularly delightful news. "Students, the day after tomorrow, which is September 12th, is our school's 50th anniversary. In order to celebrate, the school is preparing to hold a food festival for the whole day." Because the announcement was rather sudden, the sophomores and juniors already knew about it. So tomorrow, the freshmen can go out to buy food and prepare for the food festival. Chapter 1426. The class was overjoyed to have such an event right after school started. All of them shrieked when they heard Mr. Chu's words. When the students from the neighboring classes heard Yun Jian and her classmates shrieking, they thought that something terrible had happened. All right. Don't get too excited, everyone. I'm even more excited than all of you. As a male teacher, Mr. Chu liked to joke around. Hearing Teacher Chu's words, all the students in the class laughed. Right, on the day of the food festival, other than selling your own food, you can also go to the stalls of other classes to buy food made by other classes. But remember, be careful. Mr. Chu reminded them again before he returned to his office. The food festival was on the 12th of September, while the 13th of September was Qin Yiru's birthday. At the same time, the 13th of September last year was the day Yun Jian was reborn. Counting the time, it had been almost a year since she was reborn into this body. Yun Jian felt a little emotional. This year was the most relaxing one in her career as an agent. Yun Jian's long lashes fluttered. On the 13th of September, the second day of the food festival, she planned to return to Longmen City to celebrate Qin Yiru's birthday. Yun Jian even invited Gu Junjian. Qin Yiru had no idea about it, of course. Yun Jian planned to give Qin Yiru a surprise. Yun Jian could skip her own birthday, but she felt that she had to celebrate Qin Yiru's birthday every year. The 12th of September came in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning, all the students in Min City's military academy did not have to go to class. They spent the morning preparing the food for the food festival. The students were nimble with their hands, each of them creating exquisite and delicious food. Some of the delicacies made one salivate just by looking at them. The food festival officially began in the morning. The start of the food festival meant that the students could sell their own food. There were all kinds of exquisite cakes, spicy soup, sushi, drinks. Even Yun Jian was dragged by Lin Wan and Muing to buy a lot of food. At this moment, Yun Jian was holding a big hamburger in her hand. As she ate, she asked Muing, "Is Mad Dragon still in Min City?" This question made Muing, who was drinking her drink, choke. Her cheeks were instantly covered by a bright red glow. "He's still here." "Yes." Yun Jian nodded gently. "Hey hey. Yun Jian." At this moment, Yun Jian saw her new roommates, Ning Kaidai, Meng Xiaolian, and Han Nina, who were selling cakes, waving at her. Other than herself, Yun Jian knew that Ning Kaidai, Meng Xiaolian, Han Nina, and Cheng Jiaojie were all in the same class. However, Ning Kaidai and the other two didn't want to play with Cheng Jiaojie. Cheng Jiaojie was sitting not far away. She was snorting coldly as she squatted there and played with her phone. Seeing Yun Jian come over, Ning Kaidai stuffed a cake into Yun Jian's hands. "Hey hey, Xiaolian and I made this together. It's free of charge. It's delicious, hee hee." Yun Jian accepted it without hesitation. Just as she took the cake, she suddenly saw a military helicopter anxiously landing on the sports field not far away from the food festival. The food festival stall was not far from the sports field. When she saw the military helicopter, Yun Jian's eyelids twitched slightly. At this moment, she saw Yu Xiaoluo running over. When he saw Yun Jian, Yu Xiaoluo's expression was very ugly. "Yun Jian." When Yu Xiaoluo ran over, his face was terrifyingly dark. It was an ugly and uneasy feeling that he had never felt before. "Yun Jian, listen to me. Don't get agitated. Your dad, he represented Z country and a group of Interpol yesterday to arrest the boss of the European and American underground black market. In the end, he didn't come back. According to the people who escaped, he was caught. It's very likely that he's already." Yun Jian's dad was naturally referring to Gu Junjian. At this point, Yu Xiaoluo's voice was a little choked up. Hearing this, the surrounding students were stunned. All the students in the military academy had just come into contact with these things. They all thought that these things that Yu Xiaoluo was talking about were very distant and glorious. But when they found out that Yun Jian's dad was very likely sacrificed because of this, all the students standing around couldn't help but look at Yun Jian sympathetically. They thought that Yun Jian would start howling like a normal girl after hearing about this. "No, no. My dad will be fine." But after hearing this, Yun Jian was very calm. She looked at Yu Xiaoluo and said calmly, "The boss of the European and American underground black market, right? Bring me there immediately." When Yu Xiaoluo heard Yun Jian's words, he thought that she was crazy. Yun Jian was powerful, the killing god of Team Monarch. But she was just a child. No matter how powerful she was, how could she fight against the European and American underground forces alone? "Yun Jian, don't get agitated. Listen to me. We'll do our best to save your dad." Before Yu Xiaoluo could finish, Yun Jian said to Yu Xiaoluo in front of all the students. Chapter 14:27. Once Yun Jian said that, everyone was stunned. Whether it was the instructors who chased after Yu Xiaoluo, Lin Wan, Yun Jian's new roommates, Ning Kaidai and the rest, as well as the students who were participating in the food festival, they were all stunned by Yun Jian's arrogant words. No matter how shocked or frightened the people around them were, they were nowhere near as shocked as Yu Xiaoluo and the instructors. The boss of the Western Underground Black Market was indeed a man named Glenn. Moreover, Yu Xiaoluo had only told Yun Jian that her father and a group of Interpol had tried to capture the boss of the Western Underground Black Market but were caught instead. Yun Jian had said the boss's name accurately. Even the male students who were studying in the military school and paid more attention to international affairs would not know the name of the boss of the Western Underground Black Market, right? Although Yun Jian was the slashing god of Team Monarch, she was only a 15-year-old girl at the end of the day. No matter how powerful Yun Jian was, how did she know? While the people around them were stunned, Yun Jian was already making her way to where the military helicopter was parked. Seeing Yun Jian walking toward the military helicopter, Yu Xiaoluo reacted quickly and walked over to stop Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, calm down. I know you're capable, but Glenn's identity is not ordinary. Interpol had sent many internationally renowned agents to infiltrate the Western Underground Black Market's territory and sacrificed many people, but they could not arrest him. If you act so rashly, not only will you not save old Gu, you'll even lose your life." Yu Xiaoluo spat out those words with red eyes and trembling. As a special forces soldier who protected the country, they faced danger at all times. Yu Xiaoluo and Gu Junjian had known each other for a long time. He hoped more than anyone that Gu Junjian could come back alive. However, Yu Xiaoluo knew that Yun Jian was Gu Junjian's current daughter. Gu Junjian doted on this daughter more than his own son. Yu Xiaoluo wanted to save Gu Junjian more than anyone else. But he couldn't risk Yun Jian's life. The atmosphere of the food festival immediately dropped. Yun Jian knew that Yu Xiaoluo said this for her own good. After all, if she was really just an ordinary girl, it would be very dangerous to rush to the rescue. That was true. However, she was no ordinary girl, nor was she Team Monarch's slashing god. Tomorrow was Qin Yiru's birthday, but something happened to Gu Junjian. How was she going to explain this to Qin Yiru? Was she supposed to watch Gu Junjian get into trouble? She clearly had the ability to save Gu Junjian, so why didn't she do anything? She couldn't do that. For the sake of Qin Yiru, Yun Jian had to do something. "If I don't do anything, which one of you can save my father? So get out of my way." Yun Jian didn't explain much. She pushed Yu Xiaoluo away and ran towards the military helicopter. "Hey! Yun Jian!" Seeing this, Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors chased after her. What's going on?" Ning Kaidai asked in a daze. "Pfft, why is she joining in the fun? Does she really think she's Superman? Hee hee." Cheng Jiaojia, who was sitting on the bench, played with her phone and said coldly. Cheng Jiaojia didn't like being in Min City's military academy, and she hated everyone in Min City's military academy. She's not Superman, she's a god. An existence that no one can surpass. Mu Ying turned her head and glared at Cheng Jiaojia. She said calmly and followed Yun Jian. They'll be fine, right?" Although Lin Wan was scared, she still wanted to follow. A slender hand grabbed the corner of Lin Wan's shirt. Leng Hanja walked over and grabbed the corner of Lin Wan's shirt. He said to everyone, Yun Jian will be fine. She can fly a helicopter and go in and out of the Amazon forest freely. It's not an exaggeration to say that she's a god. Leng Hanja, who suddenly appeared and said these words, made Lin Wan, Ning Kaidai, Meng Xiaolian, and all the other students who were standing around them open their mouths in shock. Yun Jian could fly a helicopter? And in a terrifying place like the Amazon forest, freely. Chapter 14:28. Leng Hanja's mouth twitched when he saw everyone's shocked expression. He didn't say anything else. Yes, Yun Jian was a god. She wasn't just the legend of Min City Military Academy. She was also a world-class legend. Such a terrifying person. Such a frightening existence. Leng Hanja pursed his lips and didn't say anything in the end. However, the fear he had for Yun Jian, or rather, the thoughts in his heart, was something that no one present could imagine. Yun Jian, she wasn't an ordinary student of Min City Military Academy. She was, yes, Leng Hanja didn't forget what happened in the Amazon forest. He was the only one who didn't forget what happened that day. He even knew Yun Jian's identity and Ying Ying's identity. After knowing Mu Ying's identity, Leng Hanja suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Ying Ying didn't like him anymore. However, when he found out that the Mu Ying he liked when he was young was actually a different person from the Mu Ying he knew now, Leng Hanja didn't feel like he couldn't handle it. Instead, he heaved a huge sigh of relief. So, his Ying Ying never hated him. She was just a different person. And his Ying Ying might not even be alive anymore. Senior, why are you crying? Lin Wan's clothes were grabbed by Leng Hanja. Just as she was about to ask Leng Hanja to let go of her clothes, she saw a tear at the corner of Leng Hanja's eyes. I'm fine. The wind is too strong now. The sand got into my eyes. Let's just leave it at that. You guys don't have to worry about it. Go do whatever you need to do. Yun Jian will be fine. Trust me. Leng Hanja let go of Lin Wan's clothes and walked to the side listlessly. Yun Jian ran towards the military helicopter at lightning speed. Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors chased after her with all their might. However, they realized that Yun Jian's steps weren't big, but her speed was much faster than all of them. Yu Xiaoluo knew that Gu Junjian was probably dead. He was indeed upset, but he couldn't just watch as Yun Jian ran towards the military helicopter. This military helicopter was indeed carrying Yu Xiaoluo to rescue Gu Junjian. However, if Yun Jian went with them, Yu Xiaoluo felt that he would let Gu Junjian down. Because if Yun Jian went with him, it would be extremely dangerous. Before Yun Jian came to Min City Military Academy, he had told Yu Xiaoluo to keep an eye on Yun Jian and protect Yun Jian. If something really happened to Yun Jian, then Yu Xiaoluo would break his promise. U.S. when heat, TSS when he's and he's as A's. Han, T's, he's estes. Heat T. Yun Jian's yunt, S, Yun Jian, S yuns, however, the pilot's reaction was also quite fast. He immediately raised the helicopter that was parked on the field. At this moment, Yun Jian was only about 10 meters away from the helicopter. When Yu Xiaoluo and the others saw the pilot raise the helicopter, they thought that Yun Jian couldn't go up. However, what happened next stunned the entire audience. Yun Jian's body tilted forward. She ran 5 meters at the speed of light, but when she was 5 meters away from the helicopter, she stomped on the ground and leaped forward. At this time, the helicopter had already flown about 2 meters in the air. She rushed forward and actually grabbed the bottom handle of the helicopter before it was about to leave the ground. With a light swing, Yun Jian stepped on a board and nimbly flipped her body to the side of the helicopter. The pilot did not close the door and easily boarded the helicopter. When the helicopter took off, if there was any grass on the ground, it would be blown wildly. The force of the wind was very strong. Not to mention other factors, Yun Jian's move was very dangerous. The difficulty level was also abnormally high. Chapter 1429. Even though the instructors were stunned, they did not forget to continue running in that direction. However, the astonishment on their faces could not be erased. She actually got on the helicopter. One of the instructors shouted in shock as he ran. At the same time, he had a stunned expression on his face. One had to know that the instructors present were all very powerful, but none of them could do that. Rushing up the helicopter when it was taking off? That was playing with one's life. Usually, when a helicopter was flying high in the sky, ropes would be thrown down for people to grab onto. Many special forces soldiers knew how to do that. Although it was not easy, any special forces soldier with a strong enough physique could do it. However, when the helicopter took off, the force from below would cause a strong gust of wind on the ground. At this time, there was no one who could get on the helicopter without using any ropes. At least, the instructors in front of them could not do it. Damn, she's too powerful. Is she really just a student from Min City's military academy? One of the instructors directly complained. Just as he complained, Yun Jian had already knocked out the pilot on the helicopter. Then, she steered the helicopter back and lowered the rope from the helicopter. Mu-Ying, get up. After she lowered the rope, she returned to the pilot's seat and accurately steered the helicopter to Mu-Ying's side. Mu-Ying ran forward 2 steps and then jumped violently. Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors also saw the rope that was lowered. They wanted to rush up and grab the rope, but they did not expect that when Yun Jian lowered the rope, it was right in front of Mu-Ying. Mu-Ying reached out and grabbed the rope. Then, she climbed the rope and got on the helicopter in a few breaths. Then, she put the rope away. Instructor Yu, I'm sorry. But he's my father. It's my mother's birthday tomorrow. Before tomorrow, I'll definitely bring my father back. With that, Yun Jian piloted the helicopter and left the place skillfully. Damn! Damn! Who can tell me why this girl knows how to fly a helicopter? A plump instructor put his hands on his waist and gasped in surprise as he wailed. Just now, they had used all their strength and still couldn't catch up with Yun Jian. This made him feel incredulous. Yun Jian was just a little girl who had just entered the school. Going further, she was Team Monarch/God, yet she possessed such astounding strength. Now if King know why you guys snatched her into your team before she even entered the school. How is this girl a good seedling? She was simply a genius. We might not even meet one in a few hundred years. One of the instructors slapped his knee in an exaggerated manner as he yelled loudly. Yu Xiaoluo scratched his head. He took out his phone and called his superior to request for another helicopter to catch up with Yun Jian. Since Yun Jian had already gone this far, he really couldn't stop her. Moreover, with Yun Jian's skills, he might as well go all out. Country X. There were more than 10 countries in Europe and America, and Country X was one of them. The boss of Europe and America's underground black market, Glenn, liked to stay in Country X the most, so Yun Jian directly flew the helicopter to Country X. At this time, the helicopter's fuel was almost used up. Yu Xiaoluo, 2 other special forces soldiers, and a pilot's helicopter followed Yun Jian's helicopter closely. The more they flew, the more the pilot exclaimed, "Damn, who is this little girl? This helicopter is so stable. She avoided the airflow all the way here. There's no turbulence at all. She flew the helicopter directly to Country X. Did she know that the boss of Europe and America's underground black market, Glenn, is in Country X? F***ck, this girl is too fierce." Chapter 1430. On the other side, Yun Jian was sitting in the pilot's seat. The man who was supposed to be the pilot of the plane was tied up. Yun Jian didn't do anything to him. She just wanted him to behave a little. Damn, little girl, you're so powerful. When you come back, you must teach me how to avoid the airflow. I've been flying a helicopter for 3 years, and this helicopter can't avoid the airflow in my hands. It's bumping and bumping. The pilot didn't realize that he was tied up by Yun Jian. Instead, he was eager to learn and asked Yun Jian to teach him the technology. Yun Jian curled her lips, thinking that this pilot was quite interesting. Yun Jian landed the helicopter in a deserted place, and then let Muing untie the rope that tied the pilot. The helicopter is out of fuel. You can contact someone to take you back. Yun Jian glanced at the pilot, then gathered the things on her body and walked to a quiet place. She had all kinds of knives on her, although she didn't have guns. But guns, she could snatch them herself. Seeing this, Muing followed Yun Jian's footsteps and walked over there. Just as the two of them walked over there, they were stopped by Yu Xiaoluo, who rushed over. Yun Jian, listen to me, Glenn is definitely not the opponent you met before. He has a stronger background. Over the years, we and the Interpol have sent dozens of agents or special forces to his lair, but the result was no exception. In the end, there was no news. We still can't contact them. I'm more anxious than you about your father's accident, but it's useless to be anxious. How about this? I agree to let you stay, but we have to think about it in the long run. There will definitely be a rescue plan, but we have to take it slow. Just as Yu Xiaoluo said this, he was interrupted by Yun Jian. How many people do you have? Where are you stationed? Take me there. She even knew this? Yu Xiaoluo was shocked. After all, the boss of the underground black market in Europe and the United States had to be eliminated. Only then could the people be at peace. Therefore, the Interpol had always sent people to lurk in Country X, in order to arrest the bad guys one day. But he had never told Yun Jian that Country X also had people stationed there for a long time. How did Yun Jian find out? Lead the way, Yun Jian said again. Hearing this, Yu Xiaoluo did not hesitate. He, together with 2 special forces soldiers, brought Yun Jian and Muing to a bustling street in Country X. The architecture of Country X was completely different from that of Country Z. Whether it was in terms of customs or style of dress, it was completely different from Country Z. Yu Xiaoluo took Yun Jian, Muing, and 2 other special forces soldiers to a deep alley. They then went around many streets and came to a house. Standing outside the house was a man wearing very ordinary Country X clothes. When he saw Yu Xiaoluo, the man quickly stood up. Old Yu? Yu Xiaoluo made a gesture and then led Yun Jian and the others into the house. As soon as they walked into the house, Yun Jian saw many women and men dressed as locals. Let me introduce you. These are all members of the Interpol brigade from all over the country. Yu Xiaoluo introduced the group of people dressed as locals to Yun Jian. Old Yu, how can you introduce them so casually? If this. One of them heard Yu Xiaoluo's words and immediately spoke with dissatisfaction. But just as this person opened his mouth, he was stopped by Yu Xiaoluo. They are all on the same side. These 2 are students from Min City's military academy. What? You actually brought students from Min City's military academy here? Are you crazy? What is this place? Don't you know? A foreign woman heard Yu Xiaoluo's words and immediately shouted. This foreign woman was also from the Interpol brigade and could speak Chinese. However, the clothes she was wearing now were no different from the women of Country X. It was obvious that she was disguised as someone from Country X. That's right. Old Yu, you were too careless this time. After the foreign woman finished speaking, someone immediately agreed. I didn't bring them here. The 2 of them stole our helicopter and drove it here. However, Yu Xiaoluo's next sentence made this group of people who accused him of wrongdoing shut their mouths. What? They drove a helicopter here. Are you kidding me? Hearing Yu Xiaoluo's words, a woman in the corner jumped up in shock. Chapter 1431. They flew a helicopter here? Oh my God. Old you, don't tell me that these two girls know how to fly a helicopter. After the man who brought Yun Jian and the others into the house took off his country X costume, he walked to Yun Jian and Mu Ying and circled around them a few times, then let out a cry of surprise. I don't know how to fly a helicopter. The one who knows how to fly a helicopter is Yun Jian. Mu Ying opened her mouth and said. Mu Ying didn't know how to fly a helicopter. In her previous life, she was only 9 years old when she died, so she had never touched a helicopter at all. After Mu Ying's death, 70% of Yun Jian's batch of children were eliminated, and the remaining children began to learn all kinds of heavy weapons, including helicopters, fighter jets, and so on. In the organization, not all children were allowed to learn powerful weapons from the beginning. Only after eliminating most of the weak, would the strong be selected from a small group of strong people. This small group of strong people was the focus of the organization's training. They had to learn all kinds of weapons, from aircraft, tanks, and cannons, to knives, guns, and flying arrows. As an agent, no matter where they were, they had to immediately integrate into the environment. This was something that had to be done, regardless of whether it was an agent of an underground organization or an agent of a loyal country. And in the organization, there was a written rule that those who couldn't finish learning all the heavy weapons arranged by the organization within the specified time would die. So in the end, out of the hundreds of children, only 3 survived. Speaking of which, back to reality. Mu Ying's words just now successfully turned everyone's eyes to Yun Jian. Just now, when he led Yun Jian and the others into the house, the man couldn't help but swallow a breath. He saw Yun Jian standing there with one hand in her trouser pocket, standing very lazily, as if the person that everyone was talking about just now wasn't her. Cough cough. Let's not dwell on this question first. Yu Xiaoluo immediately eased the atmosphere, then he quickly said, what we need to discuss now is how to sneak into Glen's territory and rescue old Gu. We've sent so many agents to infiltrate Glen's territory, but what did they send back? No one could escape from Glen's territory. Without exception, they were all discovered and killed. We haven't even been able to contact them yet. Old you should know the dangers of that place better than any of us. The one who spoke was the man who had just led Yun Jian and the others in. This man was a member of the Interpol. His name was Zheng Liang. He was quite righteous and good at collecting information. When Zheng Liang said this, there was a trace of despair in his voice. Obviously, he wanted to save Gu Junjian very much. However, based on the current situation, saving him was harder than ascending to the heavens. When Zheng Liang said this, Yu Xiaoluo fell silent. Yu Xiaoluo naturally understood what Zheng Liang meant. Based on the current situation, there was basically no hope of rescuing Gu Junjian. When Yun Jian heard this, she frowned slightly and turned to walk towards the door. Hey, Yun Jian, where are you going? Seeing that Yun Jian was about to leave, Yu Xiaoluo hurriedly ran over to stop her and asked. If you're not going, I'll go. Yun Jian said indifferently. Your sister, are you crazy? That's an underground organization. A black market. Do you think you have 3 heads and 6 arms? Do you have the ability to go in? We're already in a mess, don't add to it. The woman who spoke was the one who was standing in the corner just now. However, just as the woman finished speaking, Yun Jian suddenly swung her hand and 5 blades flew neatly from Yun Jian's side to the woman's side. At the same time, Yun Jian was so fast that Yu Xiaoluo couldn't react at all. She dashed from the door to the woman standing in the corner. 5 blades flew past the woman's head, left shoulder, left waist, right shoulder, and right waist at the same time without hurting her at all. The woman was so frightened by the sudden blades that her face instantly turned pale. However, before she could come back to her senses, she saw a shiny butterfly knife on her neck. The fragrance of a young girl wafted over. The first thing she saw was Yun Jian standing at the door far away from her. She arrived in front of her in a short 3 seconds. Chapter 1432. You don't have the right. These 4 words were like an invisible slap that almost made the woman vomit blood. However, the woman had to admit that she did not react to Yunjian's attack at all. This also meant that the student from Min City's military academy in front of her was more powerful than her. She did not even have the chance to react when she attacked. Blackie, don't underestimate her. You don't know, at that time, in order to stop her from getting on the helicopter, I let the helicopter pilot fly the helicopter into the sky first. In the end, she rushed over and snatched the helicopter when it was already in the air. She was able to accomplish such a dangerous task so easily. I think we can give it a try with her around to save old Gu today. Anyway, I'm going all out. At most, I'll lose my life. I can't interfere with whether you guys are willing to come together or not. After all, your lives are your own. But as brothers, as my brothers and comrades, don't stop us today. I want to go with them. Yu Xiaoluo had been frowning and thinking about this matter just now. In the end, he did not care anymore. He decided to go all out. Gu Junjian was like his elder brother. He had helped him a lot. Later, they became comrades and were very close. Now, Gu Junjian was in trouble. His elder brother was in trouble. How could he sit still and wait for death? Yunjian, the 3 of us go. He was willing to believe in Yunjian for once. Yu Xiaoluo clenched his fists. He shouted at Yunjian and walked out. The woman called Blackie by Yu Xiaoluo was codenamed Blackie. She was not dark. She was from H country and could speak Chinese. She looked no different from Z country people. Blackie was shocked by Yu Xiaoluo's story about Yunjian. Now that she saw Yu Xiaoluo bringing Yunjian and moving to Glen's headquarters alone, she wanted to say, "Hey, you." In the end, Blackie stopped talking and could not say anything. Let them go. Let them go. They know that it's a big fire pit, but they still want to jump there. I told him that we can't move now. When did Yu Xiaoluo become so unwise? Seeing that Yu Xiaoluo could not be pulled back, he followed Yunjian and the other 2 out of the house. Zhengliang suddenly slammed the table and roared. Zhengliang was the captain of all the Interpol members present. Yu Xiaoluo's identity was an instructor at Min City's military academy. He also had another identity. He was a member of Interpol and Zhengliang's team. Captain, this. Blackie looked at Zhengliang's eyes. Finally, Zhengliang slammed the table. Here, Yunjian's use SS2's hua, teet, ss/ss, this s writes. STTs you people's teet heat he as some people would be so scared that they would piss their pants before the war started when they heard her identity, but an old fellow like Glen wouldn't fall for this. However, since these people were not willing to help her, she had to save Gu Junjian by herself. No matter how powerful Glen was, he was just Yunjian's defeated opponent. Yunjian, how are we going to sneak in? Should we split up or? Yu Xiaoluo asked Yunjian. Follow me and listen to my instructions. Yunjian gave a short answer. Then, she took Yu Xiaoluo and moving to Glen's. Chapter 1433. The front desk of Glen's headquarters was the biggest casino in Country X, the Gleaner Casino. Glen's headquarters was right behind the Gleaner Casino. To enter Glen's headquarters, one would have to pass through the Gleaner Casino. The entrance of the Gleaner Casino was heavily guarded. Any rustling of leaves in the wind would alert the guards. To enter, one would have to pass through the security check at the entrance. Yunjian was familiar with the place as she had been here more than once. Of course, she had been here as Slaying God back then, but she had disguised herself with another face. Slaying God's real face had not been seen by many in the underworld or even in the assassin and secret agent circle. Perhaps Slaying God would often appear in public, but every time she appeared, she would change her face. The shape of her face was different every time, and even her height and weight were sometimes ambiguous. Therefore, outsiders had no idea what slaying God looked like. Although Glenn was a despicable man, in Yun Jian's world, he was a big shot with an extraordinary international status. Even Yun Jian had to put in some effort to deal with Glenn. At that moment, Yun Jian was standing not far away from the Gleaner Casino with Yu Xiaoluo and Mu Ying. The house next to them could cover Yun Jian, Yu Xiaoluo, and Mu Ying. "Follow my instructions from now on," Yun Jian said with narrowed eyes. Mu Ying and Yu Xiaoluo nodded. Then, Yun Jian waved, planning to lead Mu Ying and Yu Xiaoluo over there. Just as Yu Xiaoluo was about to walk over, Yun Jian noticed a few people popping out from the side. They grabbed Yu Xiaoluo and stopped Yun Jian and Mu Ying from moving forward. Looking closely, they were none other than Zhengliang, Blackie, and the rest. "You guys." When Yu Xiaoluo saw Zhengliang and the others, he was so shocked that he almost shouted out loud. However, Zhengliang and the others covered his mouth. "Little brat, keep your voice down. Just now, you ran out after saying those words in high spirits. As the captain, I can't just sit around and wait for my death. Listen to my orders later. The rest of you, follow me and sneak in." Zhengliang gently slapped Yu Xiaoluo's head and said sternly, "Captain, you." Yu Xiaoluo knew that he had been too impulsive today. Who wouldn't be anxious in the current situation? When Gu Junjian was in trouble, who wouldn't be anxious to save him? However, if he acted rashly, not only would he not be able to save them, he might even lose his life. Zhengliang was considering the big picture. In comparison, Yu Xiaoluo was childish. However, Yu Xiaoluo had never expected that his team members would still follow him even though they knew that he was taking a risk. Therefore, Yu Xiaoluo was so touched that he couldn't speak. "Alright, don't say anything. Listen to my orders. Let's go." Zhengliang waved his hand and said. Yun Jian, who was standing at the side, blinked her eyes. "I'll bring you in through the back door." In the next moment, Yun Jian's words were heard. "What? Back door?" Zhengliang suddenly heard Yun Jian's words. He immediately turned his head and looked at Yun Jian in surprise. "What back door is there?" In order to ensure his own safety, Glenn wanted to enter his base camp. Everyone knew that there was only one way to go, and that was to enter through the main entrance of the Gleaner Casino. How could there be other back doors? Black Sister was stunned for a moment before asking in return. "Just follow me," Yun Jian said with a red arc. 10 minutes later, the few of them easily arrived at the backyard of Glen Casino, which was also Glen's base camp. Hiding in the corner, Zhengliang and the others looked at Yun Jian in surprise. Chapter 1434. "Don't look at me like that, I know a lot of things." Yun Jian turned the butterfly knife in her hand. She didn't lose her smile and said softly. Everyone's curiosity was piqued when they heard this. But at this moment, no one dared to make a sound. Yun Jian spoke all the way, but she was able to successfully avoid the enemy's attention without being discovered. The few people present were slightly impressed by Yun Jian. They couldn't help but sigh from the bottom of their hearts. This little girl was really too powerful. Just like what Yu Xiaoluo said. No. It was even more powerful than what Yu Xiaoluo had described. At least at this moment, they had already entered Glen's base camp. They had sneaked into Glen's base camp in 10 minutes. What an inconceivable thing. One had to know that some of the agents sent into Glen's base camp in the past were even caught as soon as they entered the gate. It took them a few days to barely sneak into Glen's base camp. This was already something that only very powerful agents could do. One had to know how strict the security of Glen's base camp was. It was like a fly flying in from the door. It would be discovered. Because this place was full of cameras. And Yun Jian? She led everyone to avoid one camera after another. She swaggered in as if she was in her own home. That's right, Yun Jian had swaggered in from the back door with everyone just now. She didn't look like she was hiding at all. If they were hiding, it was only now that everyone stopped and hid in the corner under the stairs to discuss countermeasures. Seeing that the few people in front of her still didn't dare to speak, as if they were afraid of being discovered, Yun Jian curled her lip slightly and said, "In the next 10 minutes, no one will pass by this staircase, so you can speak boldly." Based on the fact that Yun Jian had brought them into Glen's base in just 10 minutes, everyone had gone from being skeptical and doubtful in the beginning to believing whatever Yun Jian said now. They believed her without a doubt. "What should we do next?" Yu Xiaoluo asked. "We have to find the dungeon of Glen's base camp first," An Zhengliang said. An Zhengliang said as he frowned. "Base camp's dungeon?" Blackie asked doubtfully. "The dungeon of Glen's base camp should be in the basement. It's the cell that Glen used to imprison the agents who came to assassinate him. It should be near here." At this point, An Zhengliang frowned, and then his face couldn't help but darken. "Captain, what's wrong?" Blackie felt An Zhengliang's frown and couldn't help but ask. Intuition told Black Sister that the dungeon was not simple. Sure enough, An Zhengliang's next words made the hearts of everyone present tense. The dungeon of Glen's base camp was once known as the strongest cell in Europe and America. Not only were there agents who came to assassinate Glen, but there were also assassins and agents who were subdued by Glen. Even some international people who refused to submit to Glen were imprisoned there. Furthermore, this dungeon is heavily guarded. I've heard that the dungeon's door is built with the most advanced technology. Even if heavy weapons like tanks or cannons were to bombard the dungeon's door would still be as sturdy as iron. It's rumored that it's impossible to escape from the dungeon. Because there were many checkpoints set up in this dungeon, even top international figures could only escape a short distance if they wanted to. Rumor has it that since the construction of the dungeon, no one has ever succeeded in escaping. Chapter 1435. Glen's base camp covered a very large area. Glen had originally built a dungeon here. This was not a secret, but something that everyone knew. And Zhengliang had never thought that they would really be able to enter Glen's base camp. He had already prepared to retreat in the fastest way if he was exposed. No matter what, as the team leader, he had to protect his team members as well as the two little girls from Min City's military academy. Even if he had to sacrifice his life, he had to protect them. However, An Zhengliang had never thought that they would really enter Glen's base camp in just 10 minutes. As for the dungeon in Glen's base camp, this was not a big secret. It was something that anyone with a little fame in the international circle knew about. Even if he didn't have any fame, he wouldn't be afraid that no one would tell him about it if he inquired about it internationally. The dungeon in Glen's base camp was guarded by a forest. It was even more difficult than entering Glen's base camp. In the dungeon, other than the most high-tech door installed at the entrance, there were also heavy guards inside. Not even a fly could fly out. It was said that the most powerful one had escaped from the dungeon cell to the entrance and almost succeeded in escaping. In the end, because he couldn't crack the password to open the door, he was shot to death by a large wave of guards armed with machine guns. Hearing An Zhengliang's words, Black Sister, Yu Xiaoluo, the two special forces soldiers standing around, and the members of Interpol all had gloomy expressions. "Captain, according to what you said, no one who entered that place has ever successfully escaped from prison. If our people who were captured and imprisoned are really there, then wouldn't we not even have a 0.1% chance of winning?" Black Sister's face stiffened as she asked. Although this was an indisputable fact, An Zhengliang couldn't bear to say it when he saw everyone staring at him in unison. However, in the end, he still nodded. That dungeon was built a little earlier than Glen became the boss of the underground black market in Europe and America. It is said that Glen doesn't like to kill people. He likes to imprison all the agents who assassinate him in the dungeon and then let them fight on their own. That dungeon should be a place where the winner is the king. A place where the winner is the king. This also meant that in the dungeon, the weak and the strong, if the strong wanted to kill the weak, they didn't need anyone's permission. In that case, wouldn't Gu Junjian be in danger? Let's go. Yun Jian stood up and walked out. Yun Jian, don't go, we. Yu Xiaoluo had just stood up and followed Yun Jian out of the staircase when he saw a group of people standing in front of the staircase. Wasn't the person in the middle of this group the famous Glen? At this moment, Glen was looking at Yun Jian and Yu Xiaoluo as if they were prey, and, downstairs. Glen's appearance was very ordinary. His hair was very short, and he was not tall. He was a very ordinary old man, about 50 or 60 years old. Seeing Glen standing there quietly with a group of people, Yu Xiaoluo's heart almost jumped out of his chest. It was as if a ghost had suddenly appeared. Hey, you guys! Seeing Yun Jian and Yu Xiaoluo walk out of the staircase, Zhengliang, Blackie and the others followed. The two groups of people looked at each other. When they saw Glen, Zhengliang, Blackie and the others turned pale with fright. At this moment, Glen suddenly laughed out loud and waved his hand. My prey, I've been waiting for you for a long time, he he he. Laughing loudly, Glen's subordinates took a large bottle of spray and sprayed it at Yun Jian and the others. The people who were sprayed quickly fainted. Glen's group was already prepared, so they naturally wouldn't be stunned by their own spray. No one saw the smile on Yun Jian's face before she fainted. Chapter 1436. In the haze, everyone fainted. Before they fainted, the people who were frightened by Glen's sudden appearance only had one thought: it's over. Glen had a strange habit. He liked to watch people kill each other and not be easily killed by his own shot. Therefore, he built the dungeon to watch this group of people fend for themselves. The dungeon held all agents, assassins, or black market forces from all over the world. Those people were all demons who killed without batting an eyelid. They knew the way of survival and were used to killing to increase their vanity. In that place, the king of killing was the ruler. Yun Jian woke up early. She leaned against one of the prison walls and closed her eyes. F***ck, UB**tch, get moving. Like a corpse. D**MNB**tch. I won't F***ck you until you cry. A howl came from the side. Without opening her eyes, she knew that a man was forcing himself on a woman. The prison Yun Jian was in was very big. It was about the size of 5 classrooms. Moreover, it was full of people. Men and women were mixed together. Here, there was no distinction between men and women. If a woman was too weak, she would become a tool for men to vent. Yun Jian opened her eyes and saw Muing, Zhengliang, Black Sister, Yu Xiaoluo, and the others. Looking to the side, there was Gu Junjian, whom she had not seen for a long time, and Gu Yunjian's teammates who were caught here with him. Yun Jian, you're finally awake. Yu Xiaoluo heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Jian had actually woken up a long time ago, or it could be said that she had not fainted. Only then did she stand up. From the beginning, she had already figured out everything. After Gu Junjian and his teammates sneaked into Glen's base and were discovered, they were locked up in the dungeon. In the dungeon, other than women who were not strong enough and became slaves for men to vent, the newcomers would be beaten up by the old people in the dungeon. Some of them would even die. The reason why Yun Jian and the others were fine and Gu Junjian was not killed was because Gu Junjian and the others had a very strong teammate, so no one dared to bully them. While Yun Jian was unconscious, the third corpse had already been moved out of the dungeon. Those were the corpses of the weak. What should we do? In this kind of place, we will be killed sooner or later. Blackie asked with a pale face. Gu Junjian had a very strong teammate named Lin Wei. The reason why Yun Jian and the others weren't challenged by those lunatics in the dungeon was because of Lin Wei. But now, Lin Wei was already covered in injuries from fighting with that group of people. He couldn't hold on any longer. In a place like this, there were only people who were beaten to death. Even a very powerful person would die from exhaustion or infection of their wounds after challenging one expert after another. This was the dungeon. Anyone who entered would die without a doubt. Yun Jian knew this, but she acted as if nothing had happened. Her goal had been achieved. She had found Gu Junjian. At this moment, a group of men suddenly walked over. This group of men walked in front of Yun Jian and the others, looked at Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Blackie, and then said with an evil smile, "Yo yo yo, 3 chicks have come. You know the rules here, right? The chicks have to be given to our boss to enjoy. How about it, you guys should obediently hand them over, This person smiled very wretchedly. The boss he spoke of was the most powerful person in this dungeon. Hearing this person's words, Gu Junjian didn't even care about being afraid. He directly protected Yun Jian and the other 2 behind him. F***ck, you don't want to? That way of yours is about to die. Let's see who can save you this time. Before the man could finish, Yun Jian pulled Gu Junjian who was standing in front of her away. She squinted her eyes and licked her lips as she looked at the people in front of her. Her melodious voice stood out as she spoke in an insolent tone that shocked everyone. Call your trashy boss over. Today, I'll show him what the real way to survive in the underground world is. I will show him who is the real powerhouse. No one knew the world of the underground black market better than her. Chapter 1437. Yun Jian's words stunned the men standing in front of her. It was obvious that Yun Jian, who was only 16 or 17 years old, was able to say something like that despite her youthful looks. Not only were the men standing opposite of Yun Jian shocked, but Yu Xiaoluo, and Zheng Liang, He Mei, and the rest were equally shocked. It even attracted the attention of all the prisoners sitting around the dungeon. Gu Junjian was the only one who knew the reason why Yun Jian dared to say that. Gu Junjian was aware of Yun Jian's identity as slaying God. However, when he saw the men having designs on Yun Jian and the other 2 girls, Gu Junjian had forgotten about Yun Jian's identity. He had stood up to protect her out of reflex. Yo, yo, yo. Is this chick challenging our prison boss? Right after Yun Jian finished speaking, an indecent male voice was heard. It was the man who was watching the show. Hee, this chick has a death wish. How dare she call the prison boss trash? She doesn't know our prison boss's identity before he was sent to the dungeon. Before he was sent to the dungeon, he was Martial King, ranked 10th on the International Assassin chart. If we weren't trapped here, we wouldn't even have the chance to meet Martial King who's ranked on the International Assassin chart. He. Another male voice sounded. This voice was as lazy as it could be. Most of the people here had the mentality of, I won't be able to get out of the dungeon anyway. They were here to drag out an ignoble existence and live as long as they could. There was nothing to talk about, so the people here liked to talk about their past deeds outside. And Zheng Liang, He Mei, Yu Xiaoluo, and the rest looked worried when they heard that the prison boss was once ranked on the International Assassin chart. Even Lin Wei, who had accepted all sorts of challenges from the people in the prison over the past few days and was the strongest among them, could not stand up anymore. His eyelids twitched and his eyes were filled with despair. The title of prison boss was not for nothing. The number of people Martial King had killed in the prison all these years was immeasurable. No one in the prison disagreed with his identity as the prison boss. Because the Martial King's fist was hard enough. King Wu? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly when she heard this name. The Martial King, who ranked 10th on the International Assassin rankings, had lived for even longer than Yun Jian's debut, but Yun Jian had indeed heard of the Martial King's name. Unfortunately, many years ago, the martial king disappeared into thin air as if he had evaporated into thin air. There was an unwritten rule in the international ranking of assassins and secret agents. Assassins or secret agents who disappeared for half a year were automatically considered dead. Naturally, someone else would take their place. It turned out that the martial king was not dead, but imprisoned in the dungeon. No wonder King Wu went missing. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. The men who had been calling the martial king boss earlier thought that Yun Jian was afraid. They looked at Yun Jian and spoke again, their voices filled with arrogance and pride. That's right. The martial king who was ranked 10th on the assassin rankings was our boss. Little sister, are you scared now? If you're scared, then come over obediently, or else. Just as these men spoke up to this point, a figure suddenly flitted past in front of them. Yun Jian sent them flying with a few kicks, then grabbed the collar of the man who had been speaking rudely just now and dragged him away. Gu Junjian, Yu Xiaoluo, and the others were stunned when they saw this, but they quickly followed. In a corner, a man had just gotten up from an unconscious woman. He pulled his belt and was just about to leave when a heavy figure was thrown in front of him. This man was the martial king. And the figure thrown on the ground was the man who had spoken rudely to Yun Jian just now. The martial king abruptly raised his head. When he saw Yun Jian, his brows furrowed slightly. Who are you? The martial king's vigilance was still very high. He looked at Yun Jian and immediately asked. Although this little girl was young, from her appearance, she was not an ordinary person. Not long after the martial king asked, Yun Jian's equally arrogant words were heard. Chapter 1438. Gu Junjian and Mu Ying, who were the first to rush up, were not surprised when they heard Yun Jian's words. After all, the two of them already knew about Yun Jian's identity. However, Zheng Liang, Black Sister, and the others who caught up from behind, as well as Lin Wei, who was being supported and beaten to the brink of death, were all stunned when they heard Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian. What did she say? Not only did she say that King Wu was a trash boss, but now she wants King Wu to give up his position as the prison's boss? Black Sister didn't like Yun Jian very much when she appeared, because in Black Sister's eyes, Yun Jian was here to cause trouble. Now, she disliked Yun Jian even more. Lin Wei was the strongest in their group, and the only reason why the people in the prison didn't bully him was because Lin Wei was still alive. However, there were still a lot of people who were eyeing Lin Wei covetously, waiting for Lin Wei to die before rushing up to make things difficult for Gu Junjian and the others. Probably because the people here were locked up for a long time without seeing the light, the only thing left in their world was killing. King Wu, who was standing opposite Yun Jian, stretched out his thumb and rubbed his nose. His ugly face was full of red pimples, and it looked like he had overindulged in debauchery. In the past few years, the only person who dared to challenge me was you. Little girl. King Wu rubbed his hands and said this sentence in a strange tone. It was obvious that King Wu was now very unhappy with Yun Jian's actions. The evil aura emitted from King Wu's body made Lin Wei tremble. Lin Wei was the strongest in Gu Junjian's group. At that time, he fought with King Wu once and was defeated in a few moves. However, King Wu didn't kill him. Everyone in the prison knew that King Wu liked to torture people slowly. When people were tired, or he wanted to make a move, he would kill them. Later, before King Wu killed Lin Wei, Gu Junjian, and the others, Yun Jian came. What a pity, it seems that today, not only will I be the only person who challenged you in all these years, but I will also be the executioner who ends your life. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She wasn't scared by King Wu's aura in front of everyone. Instead, she openly looked at King Wu and said this arrogantly. A 16 or 17-year-old girl had just said something that many of the men present didn't dare to say. They didn't even dare to let out a fart. Everyone present was stunned. Did this little girl go crazy after realizing that she couldn't go out? Was she stupid? Because she couldn't accept the truth, she went crazy? Yun Jian. You want to kill us? Black Sister ground her teeth, using a voice that was equivalent to a warning to speak these words very softly from her mouth. Yun Jian's writes words died to dies, Yun's always to death. She just to die to die, she's always caused trouble was causing caused troubles Yun's to dies to die. But now, she actually went against King Wu's words. Everyone present knew King Wu's strength. If they were to go against King Wu, then all of them would die. Yun Jian naturally heard Yun Jian's words, but she ignored them. She glanced to the side. In the next breath, Yun Jian suddenly lifted her leg and ran towards King Wu. She made the first move. King Wu saw this and couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Yun Jian's running speed was extremely slow and full of loopholes. King Wu didn't raise his guard at all. Just as he was about to raise his hand, Yun Jian was already in front of King Wu. She suddenly became fierce, and a butterfly knife appeared in her hand. In front of everyone, she directly plunged it into King Wu's neck. King Wu died on the spot. In a battle between experts, victory or defeat was decided in one move. Yun Jian's eyes widened when she saw this scene. After King Wu fell to the ground and died before he could even utter his last words, Yun Jian scanned the crowd and said with a red smile, "You're right. From now on, I'm your new prison boss." With that, Yun Jian bent down and pulled out the butterfly knife from King Wu's neck. Chapter 1439. Yun Jian's attack was so fast that no one had a chance to react. King Wu was a very powerful person, so powerful that even Yun Jian had to maintain full vigilance. However, in the eyes of outsiders, the battle between Yun Jian and King Wu was only a matter of 10 seconds. In these short 10 seconds, he had already come up with dozens of battle plans in his mind in a battle between two experts. In a battle between experts, every move was fatal. Yun Jian had shown her flaws to King Wu. King Wu clearly thought that she had some ability, but she was still too young, so King Wu did not raise his guard from the beginning. King Wu was an assassin, so his vigilance should not have been so weak. However, Yun Jian had guessed it in advance. Especially the words that the martial king himself had said. King Wu said that in the past few years, she was the only person who dared to challenge him. This meant that King Wu had been in the position of prison boss for a long time and had not met an opponent for a few years. Perhaps King Wu used to be very powerful, so powerful that it was amazing. Yun Jian had never met King Wu, but she had heard of his name. King Wu, who was ranked 10th on the international assassin rankings. His strength was comparable to the 4th on the international assassin rankings. His ranking was just a little lower. In the past, King Wu was very strong, but after staying in prison for so many years, the current King Wu did not work hard in such a cruel world and had gradually lost his edge. Coupled with King Wu's own words, he had not met an opponent who could fight him for so many years. A kind of numbness appeared in his heart, and he felt that no one was as good as him. This was the key to Yun Jian's victory over King Wu in one move. She could read people's minds. Therefore, in terms of opponents, if their opponents were too weak, they would gradually relax and feel that they were already strong enough. They would no longer work hard or fight for anything. However, they did not know that they were just frogs at the bottom of a well. They were stuck in the same place, while others were working hard to the peak. For example, in school sports and running competitions, if the opponents in the same group were too weak, then the results of the entire group would not be too high. Perhaps they were already complacent, but compared to the people in the other groups, they were lagging by a lot. Yun Jian understood this a long time ago, so she never wanted her opponents to be too weak. She even wanted to go to more dangerous places to challenge herself. Because only by tempering oneself and walking on the edge of life and death could one become the ultimate king. In the eyes of outsiders, Yun Jian's action of killing King Wu looked like she had easily killed King Wu with a single move. Therefore, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Especially the black-haired girl who had just said that Yun Jian wanted to kill them. Now, the black-haired girl's face was terrifyingly dark. Inside the prison, the people who were originally sitting lazily and watching the show all stood up at this moment. The martial king had dominated the prison for a long time. It could be said that he had never met a worthy opponent in all these years. Therefore, the people in the prison were already numb, thinking that no one would be able to kill the martial king in this lifetime. But no one expected that the person who killed the martial king would come. Furthermore, she was an underage girl. For a moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Yun Jian. Yu Xiaoluo gulped. He took a long time to call out Yun Jian's name. In the end, he could not say anything. Although Gu Junjian already knew Yun Jian's identity, the moment Yun Jian rushed up, he still broke out in a cold sweat for Yun Jian. Now that he saw that Yun Jian was safe, Gu Junjian felt a sense of relief. At this moment, Yun Jian walked up to Gu Junjian and the others. She wiped the blood off the butterfly knife, then put it away. She stood in front of Gu Junjian and the others and said generously, "All right, I can go now." Go? Go where? Yu Xiaoluo did not understand, but he was the first to react. At this moment, Yun Jian had already walked to the door of the prison cell. Yun Jian, are you thinking of breaking out of the prison? Yu Xiaoluo said in horror. At this moment, the people around the prison turned their gazes over. Chapter 1440. A small and broken prison? This is a small and broken prison. The people present were shocked by Yun Jian's words. A small and broken prison? Little girl, we admit your strength, but you actually said that this is a small and broken prison? The prison in our dungeon is as strong as iron. Not to mention the entrance of the dungeon, even the prison's cage has a password lock installed. It's a system device. If you want to open the door, you have to use Glenn's fingerprints to open the cage. In addition to the prison's cage, you have to go all the way to the dungeon's entrance. The dungeon's entrance also requires Glenn's fingerprints to unlock the password lock. Here, there are 2 thresholds. Not to mention the guards that were patrolling the area. Moreover, if we casually touch the password lock, the alarm system will immediately be pulled. We will be caught before we can even start to escape. I've been here for more than 10 years and have long given up hope of leaving. You may not know, but the prison boss who was earlier than the martial king was a terrifying guy who was 10 times more powerful than the martial king. Back then, the martial king was only enough to be the underling of that prison boss. In the end, that terrifying guy escaped and broke through the password lock of the prison's cage. He broke through all the obstacles and had already reached the entrance of the dungeon. However, because he couldn't unlock the password lock at the entrance of the dungeon, he was directly shot to death by the guards who chased after him with a machine gun. That's why the martial king was able to become our prison boss. Little girl, I think you're quite young, so don't do stupid things. Hey! Back then, I was also a warrior who served the country and the people. In the end, I was still locked up here and one of my hands was crippled. However, I'm already very satisfied to be able to save this rotten life of mine. Just as Yun Jian was about to take action, a man in his 50s with long hair, who probably hadn't cut it for many years, sitting in the corner, raised his head to look at Yun Jian and kindly reminded her. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't have said so many words of advice to Yun Jian. After all, just like the previous prison boss, the martial king, if someone questioned his ability in front of everyone, according to the martial king's character, he would guarantee to kill the person who questioned his ability at the first moment. The words of this man with long hair in his 50s made Yun Jian narrow her eyes, and Maiden Zhengliang, Black Sister and the others turn pale with fright. First of all, it can be confirmed that the terrifying guy that this man was definitely the one in Zhengliang mentioned before, the one who escaped the farthest and was shot to death by a machine gun because he couldn't unlock the password lock at the entrance of the dungeon. However, everyone didn't expect that person to be 10 times more powerful than the martial king. If that was the case, would Yun Jian not have an even lower chance of winning? Wanting to escape, that was simply courting death. Escaping prison, that is death. Yun Jian, don't drag us into your mess. I've been putting up with you for a long time. You've been causing trouble for us since the beginning. Look what you've done now. We're all going to die here. Hee, then do you know how to unlock the password lock? Have you ever thought that if you escape, you will be like the previous boss, who was shot to death by a machine gun because he couldn't unlock the password lock? Don't make trouble for us, we. Black Sister clenched her fists and made a gesture of tolerating Yun Jian for a long time. Gotcha. However, before Black Sister finished speaking, the sound of a lock being unlocked was heard. Black Sister and the others turned their heads in surprise, only to see that Yun Jian had already unlocked the password lock in her hand. Chapter 1441. Careless? He accidentally unlocked the password lock. Everyone was stunned. In front of the prison cage was a door with a password lock. This password lock was monitored by a computer program. Unless Glenn pressed his finger and fingerprint on the top of the password lock could not be unlocked. Otherwise, if someone reached out and pressed 3 buttons on the password lock would sound an alarm. If someone tried to escape, the guards in the prison would immediately know and rush over. Normally, if the alarm did not sound, there would be no guards patrolling here. Because without the password lock, the prison cage was extremely stable. Even if it was bombarded with cannons, it would not be able to blow it open. The cage of the prison was only a little worse than the entrance of the dungeon, so Glenn had no intention of sending anyone to guard this place. This was because if someone wanted to escape, they would touch the combination lock. Once the combination lock was touched, a loud alarm would sound. In this way, the guards would immediately know and rush over. If they did not touch the password lock, the people here would not be able to break the cage at all, nor would they be able to get out. The terrifying fellow who had escaped to the entrance of the dungeon was already the most powerful one among all the prisoners in the dungeon who had escaped. Even he had to spend a few months before he was able to crack the combination lock. Most people had not even stepped out of the prison cage before they were discovered because they had touched the password lock and sounded the alarm. There was an unwritten rule in the dungeon, and that was, once someone was found to have escaped from prison, they would be shot on the spot. Therefore, there were many people who had died trying to escape from prison over the years. Over time, the people here did not dare to take the risk of escaping from prison. But what happened today? Black Sis had just finished speaking, and before she could finish speaking, Yun Jian had already unlocked the password lock. This? Yun Jian, you. At this moment, Black Sis had just recovered from the shock of Yun Jian killing the martial king. In the end, she had just opened her mouth to say something righteous when Yun Jian ruthlessly slapped her in front of everyone. This time, Black Sis's face really darkened. Originally, it was not black, but it had really turned black. I won't force you to break out of prison with me. Now, those who are willing to come with me, those who aren't can stay. Also, if any accidents happen during the escape, I won't be responsible, because I can still leave without you. Yun Jian looked at everyone in the prison. She reached out and shook the password lock in her hand. In the next moment, she threw the password lock in her hand to the ground. However, she curled her red lips. Although she said that, Yun Jian glanced at Gu Junjian. She was here to save Gu Junjian. As for why she invited others, it was because she was not alone. She wanted to bring Gu Junjian out. The more people, the safer Gu Junjian. Even if the guards were to catch up, Gu Junjian would not be the first to die. Don't blame her, Yun Jian, for being cruel. This was the way of survival. To achieve one's goal by hook or by crook, this was the principle of being a secret agent. She, Yun Jian, was never a good person, and had never admitted that she was. I'll go with you. The man in his 50s who kindly reminded Yun Jian just now stood up and spoke first. His hair was very long because it had been a long time since he had trimmed it. I don't want to stay here anymore. Instead of staying here for the rest of my life, I might as well fight for my freedom. Even if I die, I won't regret it. My name is Wei Gear, a police officer from country Y. I'll go with you. The man who called himself Wei Gear looked at Yun Jian and spoke. Those who want to go, follow me. Those who don't, I won't force you. Yun Jian curled her lips. She did not answer Wei Gear. Instead, she curled her red lips. It was obvious that Yun Jian was not going to say welcome. Other than Wei Gear, Gu Junjian, Mu Ying, Yu Xiaoluo, Lin Wei, He Mei, and Zheng Liang, and the rest, there were also a few people who followed Yun Jian. Soon, under Yun Jian's lead, the few of them made countless turns and arrived at a fork. There were 2 guards standing in front of the fork, each holding a machine gun in their hands. Yun Jian waved her hand to signal for everyone to stop. Then, she bit on an unused butterfly knife in her mouth and rolled towards the 2 guards. What shocked He Mei, Yu Xiaoluo, and the rest was that Yun Jian rolled on the ground and arrived in front of the 2 guards. Logically speaking, in such a quiet environment, this roll should have made some noise. However, the strange thing was that Yun Jian's roll did not make any noise at all. Yun Jian was not human at all, this supernatural thing. Chapter 1442. Yun Jian silently rolled to the side of the 2 guards. She did not reach for the butterfly knife in her mouth. Instead, she stood behind the 2 guards. Because the dungeon was built in the basement, there was no light all year round. They could only rely on electric lights to light up the passageway. Although Yun Jian's movements were silent, when the light shone on the ground, they could see her figure. The 2 guards originally had their backs facing Yun Jian. When they suddenly saw that under the light, other than their own shadows, there was another small shadow on the ground in front of them. They were immediately shocked. After all, if someone approached them in such a quiet place, they would definitely make some noise. Moreover, the 2 guards knew very well that if someone wanted to escape from the prison cell, they had to crack the password lock. If the password lock could not be cracked by pressing it 3 times, the alarm would immediately be sounded. The only person who could crack the password lock was the terrifying person who had escaped to the entrance of the dungeon and was shot to death by the guards with a machine gun. Therefore, these 2 guards were not on high alert to begin with. After trembling violently, the 2 guards wanted to turn around as if they had seen a ghost. Gu Junjian, Zheng Liang, He Mei, Yu Xiaoluo, and the others who were hiding in the corner were terrified. The 2 guards turned around. Just as the guards turned around, however, they saw that Yun Jian and Gu Junjian and the others who had peeked their heads out from the corner had already left the cell. The guards were about to cry out in shock when they heard Yun Jian's voice. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of the 2 guards, suddenly reached into her pocket and took out 2 pieces of paper that were rolled into a circle. The 2 guards were shocked that Yun Jian and the others had escaped from the prison and were about to scream. She took out the paper towels with both hands and stuffed them into the 2 guards' mouths before they could make a sound. Then, Yun Jian grabbed the 2 guards' jackets and used their own jackets to completely tie them up. Yun Jian then held the butterfly knife that was biting her lips in her hand. She pressed the butterfly knife against the neck of one of the guards and called Gu Junjian and the others who were hiding in the corner to come over. Gu Junjian and the others walked over very carefully. There were only 2 guards nearby, but they still chose to be careful in order to prevent any accidents. Yun Jian, why don't you just kill them? Why are you wasting time here? He Mei said to Yun Jian angrily. Yun Jian ignored He Mei. She lowered her head and looked at the two guards. She whispered to the guard whose neck she was pressing, "Dungeon entrance, lead the way." Hei Mei was a little angry that Yun Jian did not kill them and was wasting time here. But after hearing Yun Jian's words, Hei Mei suddenly came to her senses. The dungeon was very large. Hei Mei immediately felt that what she said just now made her seem stupid. Yun Jian's eyes stared straight at the guard whose neck she was pressing against. The guard shook his head desperately and tried to break free. He even tried to knock on the ground with his feet to ask for help. It was a pity that Yun Jian stabbed the guard's temple just as he was about to flee. With a muffled groan, the guard died instantly. Seeing the blood splatter, Hei Mei was still shocked. Even Lin Wei, who was stronger, couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He even complained in a low voice, "This little girl is quite fierce." Before he finished, Yun Jian had already pulled out the butterfly knife and planned to stab the other guard's temple. When the other guard saw this, he shook his head and began to mumble. Seeing that the plan was successful, Yun Jian's red arc curved and she said, "Lead the way?" The guard immediately nodded. Yun Jian stood up and waved her hand to let Gu Junjian and the others hold the guard hostage. Generally, the guards in the dungeon were strictly trained, and they would definitely not betray Glenn after being caught by the enemy for a while. It would take months of torture to force the hostages to submit, but Yun Jian only used a few seconds to make the guards submit obediently. And Zheng Liang, Hei Mei, Lin Wei, Wei Gear, and the others were stunned. Chapter 1443. The second one to follow was Muing. She was holding a shiny pistol in her hand. Those who didn't know would wonder where she got the gun from, but Lin Wei saw it clearly just now. Mu Ying's gun was snatched from a prisoner who secretly hid a pistol when she was still in prison. Not only did Mu Ying snatch the pistol, she also knocked the prisoner unconscious. Because Yun Jian was too outstanding at that time, the people around them didn't notice Mu Ying's actions. Lin Wei was considered the strongest in the group, but because he was challenged every day in prison, and it was the kind of battle where one's life or death would be at stake if he wasn't careful, Lin Wei was in a very sorry state at the moment. He was covered in injuries and had to rely on the help of two other special forces soldiers to walk forward. However, Lin Wei was the only one who saw Mu Ying snatch the pistol, and he was shocked at that time. He was only able to save his life in prison. However, Yun Jian and Mu Ying, these two female students from Min City's military school? One killed the prison boss directly, and the other snatched a pistol in prison. If it were him, Lin Wei wouldn't even dare to do that. It was already good enough that he could save his own life in prison. Not to mention anything else. Therefore, Yun Jian and Mu Ying's actions frightened Lin Wei. His soul returned to reality. Yun Jian walked in front, and Mu Ying was the second to follow. Seeing this, Gu Junjian and Zheng Liang, who grabbed the guard, carried him and quickly followed Yun Jian. Hei Mei, Lin Wei, Wei Gear, and the others were at the bottom. Under the guard's hand gestures, the group of people moved toward the dungeon gate. They went through countless turns along the way. Perhaps the guard was afraid of death, so he led the way and they didn't meet anyone else. "We're here. That's the dungeon gate." Wei Gear, who was walking at the back, saw the dungeon gate. He said in a muffled voice, but he was so excited that he wanted to scream. In the end, Wei Gear calmed himself down. How many years had it been? Weigel was a glorious criminal police officer. When he failed to assassinate Glenn and was locked up in the dungeon, he even felt that it was better to die than to lose his freedom. When one of his hands was crippled in the dungeon, Weigel had already planned to die. No one had ever escaped from this dungeon. Even that terrifying character who was 10 times more powerful than the Martial King was unable to leave this place. Not to mention them. However, Weigel gave up on death because his good comrade, who had been imprisoned with him, had died for him. Before he died, he had shouted at him, "You must live on." Even that terrifying figure could only escape to the entrance of the dungeon, but they actually managed to do it. Wei Gear was excited. At the same time, he was 100% certain about Yunjian's strength. This little girl's strength was definitely not inferior to that terrifying figure from back then. Perhaps they could really leave this place. They soon arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. There was a password lock hanging above the entrance. This password lock was even more complicated than the password lock in the prison back then. Ordinary people would not be able to understand the program on this password lock. Yunjian, quickly unlock it. Blackie said excitedly. At the same time, her heart clenched tightly. It's too late. They're coming. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She looked ahead, the way they came. However, she saw that directly opposite the dungeon, a large group of fully armed guards rushed in front of Yunjian and the others. Each of them carried a machine gun in their hands. Ah! How did they discover us? Blackie was so scared that her legs instantly trembled. The few people present immediately recalled that this was where that terrifying figure was shot to death by the guards' machine guns. After so many years, the scene from back then had reappeared once again. Yunjian wanted to unlock the password lock on this side of the dungeon. Naturally, she would need more time than the prison. And now, the guards were all holding machine guns in their hands. The muzzles were pointed at everyone present. That's how that terrifying figure died back then. We've been discovered. It's over. It's really over. Wei Gear was paralyzed on the ground as he said these words. With me here, do they really think that these few machine guns can stop us from leaving this place? Yunjian smirked and laughed coldly. Forget about machine guns. Someone once tried to bombard her with cannons and she easily dodged it. She did not care about these few machine guns at all. Yunjian's words were just normal words in her eyes. However, in the ears of Blackie, Wei Gear, Lin Wei and the others, these words had a very different meaning. Humans, against machine guns, could still survive? This was the first time they heard such a statement. Without a doubt, they were very suspicious of Yunjian's words. Even Gu Junjian looked worried. Chapter 1444. The group of guards did not say a word. They raised their machine guns and were about to fire. Yunjian did not say anything. However, she had already noticed that there was a surveillance camera right above the entrance of the dungeon. There were also surveillance cameras along the way. However, the path they took earlier was the only way. There was no other way. Or to put it another way, Yunjian knew from the start that the guards had purposely led them here. At this moment, the group of guards had already raised their machine guns. Muing, take them away. Just as the group of guards were still loading their machine guns and were about to point their machine guns at Yunjian and the rest, Yunjian shouted. She grabbed the guard who was in front of Gu Junjian and the rest and rushed towards the group of guards. This scene almost made Zhengliang, Wei Gear, and the rest go crazy. Lin Wei frowned and then shouted at the figure that Yunjian was rushing towards, "Young lady, come back. You'll die." She was going to face the group of guards with machine guns alone. Did she want to die? Lin Wei was purely concerned about Yunjian. Hence, he reached out to grab the corner of Yunjian's clothes. However, he did not expect Yunjian's reaction to be so fast. She grabbed the guard who was holding her hostage. She could still run so fast while holding a person. In the blink of an eye, Yunjian was already about 5 to 6 meters away from the group of guards with machine guns. Seeing Yunjian rush over, the group of guards originally planned to deal with Gu Junjian and the rest who were around Yunjian first before dealing with Yunjian. However, because of Yunjian's sudden rush, she was already in front of them. When the guards saw this, they immediately turned their machine guns that were aimed at Gu Junjian and the rest to Yunjian who was rushing towards the group of guards. all the machine guns were aimed at Yun Jian alone. She had lured the machine guns away for Gu Junjian and the rest, taking on the barrage of bullets alone. She was going to die for sure. Even Gu Junjian, who had always been confident in Yun Jian and knew of her identity, shouted at Yun Jian, "Xiao Jian, come back. It's dangerous." Gu Junjian shouted as he chased after Yun Jian. Before Gu Junjian could go after her, however, Gu Junjian, Zheng Liang, Blackie Mei, and the rest who were standing where they were saw a frightening scene. Yun Jian did not even turn back as she rushed over. Some of the guards who were armed with machine guns had already loaded their guns and aimed them at Yun Jian. Bang, 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 bang. Gunshots rang out one after another. Yun Jian dragged the guard who led the way just now and placed him in front of her like a meat wall. The bullets from the machine guns hit the guard hard. The guard's eyes were still wide open before he died. As he could not make a sound, he grunted twice before he died in terror. Yun Jian did not stop dragging the guard's corpse. The machine guns in the guard's hands could penetrate a person's body. After the gun hit the guard in Yun Jian's hand, it paused for a second before it went through Yun Jian, who was behind her. If it was anyone else in Yun Jian's position, they would probably be dead now. However, for Yun Jian, this pause was enough. The moment the machine guns in the guard's hand stopped firing, Yun Jian threw away the guard's corpse in her hand. She jumped to the side. She had already arrived in front of one of the guards. In the next moment, Yun Jian used her elbow to smash the neck of the nearest guard standing in front of her. With one smash, she broke the guard's neck. At the same time, she snatched the machine gun from the guard whose neck she broke first. She did not even think about it. She grabbed the machine gun and swept it at the guards around her. She fired as she ran. A large number of the guards immediately fell. However, those who were still alive would still attack Yun Jian. Yun Jian dodged the bullets as she fought back against the guards. That nimble figure seemed to be very familiar with this kind of battlefield filled with bullets. He was like a general who had survived a battle of life and death. Zheng Liang, Blackie, and the others who were in the distance stared with wide eyes. They watched as Yun Jian finished off the last guard. Then, she threw the machine gun in her hand to the ground and walked back to them. There was no trace of blood on her body. However, her entire body reeked of gunpowder. The moment she turned around and walked over, her high ponytail swayed left and right. At that moment, everyone was in a daze. Chapter 1445. The battle only lasted for 3 minutes. Within those 3 minutes, Yun Jian executed hundreds of moves. Every move and movement was not allowed to deviate by even a millimeter. Everyone who stood rooted to the spot was stunned for 3 whole minutes. Even Mu Ying's eyes flashed with surprise. She was only about 9 years old when she died. She was dead, but Yun Jian was still alive, and Yun Jian continued to train her skills in the organization. After Mu Ying took on this body, she had been practicing martial arts with her parents since she was born into a military family. She was very hardworking and had the experience of being an assassin organization. Mu Ying's skills were not to be underestimated. Compared to Yun Jian, who grew up in the organization, however, the difference was like heaven and earth. Even Mu Ying could not help but marvel at Yun Jian's ability. If it had been her just now, she would have had no chance of winning. In spite of it, not only did Yun Jian succeed, she did not even have a scratch on her. It was like she was so familiar with the scene just now that she could do it with her eyes closed. You. How did you? Miss Blackie's eyes were about to fall out of their sockets when she saw Yun Jian coming back from the other side. After all, that terrifying fellow had died under the machine guns of the guards. That guy who was 10 times more powerful than Marshal King could not dodge the machine gun attack. He could not escape death. What about Yun Jian? She was from Min City's military school, a kid who had just entered high school, but she had dodged it. This scene caused everyone to be shocked, stunned, and terrified. When Miss Blackie stuttered to Yun Jian was already in front of them. "There'll be a new wave of guards coming here in 10 minutes. I can't guarantee that they'll point their guns at me every time, so we have to leave now." Yun Jian explained quickly as she stood in front of the combination lock at the entrance of the dungeon, her fingers tapping on the lock swiftly. "Xiao Jian. You were so impulsive just now. What if you missed? Dad knows you have extraordinary skills, but every time I see you taking risks like this, Dad gets worried." Gu Junjian was already used to playing the role of Yun Jian's father. He sighed from the bottom of his heart. He was really worried about Yun Jian. Hearing Gu Junjian's words, everyone immediately turned to look at Yun Jian. At this moment, everyone wanted to hear Yun Jian's answer. At this moment, he heard Yun Jian's voice. Her fingers were still rapidly working on the password lock. She opened her mouth and said, "I'll be fine. You don't have to worry." Such a dangerous move. Even I think it's dangerous. If you make even the slightest mistake, someone will die. Your mother and I are the same. We hope that you can only do other things when you can guarantee your own safety. Gu Junjian frowned and said to Yun Jian, "Okay." Yun Jian nodded. In the end, Yun Jian added, "I've never done anything that puts myself in danger. What I did just now isn't the first time. I'm used to these days where I'm on the brink of death. I can guarantee that I'll be fine, so you don't have to worry." As Yun Jian spoke, the password lock on the dungeon door fell with a click. The door opened. Everyone's eyes lit up in surprise. "Follow me, don't wander off," Yun Jian said calmly as usual. "Yun Jian, let me ask you. We were discovered when we first entered Glenn's base. Did you walk out because you knew that Glenn and his men were standing outside?" Yu Xiaoluo, who had been silent for a long time, asked Yun Jian. Everyone was surprised by Yu Xiaoluo's sudden question and turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian did not reply. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would not reply, Yun Jian suddenly spoke. "Yes, everything is going according to my plan. Moreover, Glenn and the others were able to discover our traces because of me. My goal was only to enter the dungeon." Everyone already had a faint premonition about the first sentence, but the second sentence caused everyone to turn pale with fright. The moment they entered Glenn's base, they were discovered by Glenn and the others. This matter was actually directed and acted by Yun Jian. Chapter 1446. Originally, he thought that he would be discovered as soon as he entered Glenn's base camp. Yun Jian's strength was only a so-so. Even though Yun Jian knew the back door of Glenn's base camp and brought everyone into Glenn's base camp in just 10 minutes, they were discovered not long after. This was also the reason why Black Sister didn't believe in Yun Jian again and again and questioned Yun Jian's strength. However, Yu Xiaoluo had just asked Yun Jian if she knew that they had been discovered by Glenn early on, so she walked out at the bottom of the stairs and was deliberately caught by Glenn and the others before being sent to the dungeon. And Yun Jian actually replied that not only was all of this in her plan, even the fact that they were discovered by Glenn was all done by Yun Jian on purpose. Yun Jian had deliberately let Glenn discover them and capture all of them to the dungeon. "Yun Jian, what do you mean by that? You actually let Glenn discover our whereabouts and then capture us. The dungeon is such a dangerous place, yet you didn't discuss it with us. You said that Glenn would capture us and let us in. Have you ever thought about what if we can't get out after we go in? I can understand that you want to save your father, but you can't let all of us take the risk with you. Just now, all of us were almost killed by you, do you know that?" Black Sister suddenly reacted. The reason why they were caught in the dungeon was all because of Yun Jian. When she thought of the scenes in the dungeon, she thought of the former prison boss, Marshal King, who used women as tools to vent his anger, Black Sister had lingering fear in her heart as she immediately spoke to Yunjian. In my world, there is no such word as if. If you say half a word of nonsense, I will kill you right now and let you completely shut your mouth. As Yunjian spoke, she snatched the pistol from Mu Ying's hand and loaded it with one hand. She directly pressed it against the temple of Black Sister, who was standing beside her and talking non-stop. Yunjian's eyes did not look at Hei Mei. She frowned slightly and looked straight ahead. The black-haired girl shuddered as the pistol was pressed against her temple. Yunjian's index finger hooked the pistol. The gun was already loaded. If Yunjian hooked it gently, her fate would be. In addition, Yunjian had just snatched the machine gun from the enemy's hands with her bare hands and annihilated all the enemies. She had killed without blinking. Black Sister felt as if she was being stared at by the Grim Reaper. This feeling made her feel suffocated. Hey, Yunjian, don't be violent. Let's talk nicely. Let's talk nicely. And Zhengliang hurried over to stop them. At the same time, he looked pleadingly at Gu Junjian, hoping that Gu Junjian would say a few words for him. Xiao Jian, put the gun down. Gu Junjian chimed in. Just as Gu Junjian spoke, Yunjian lowered her hand that was pressed against the black-haired girl's temple. The black-haired girl breathed a sigh of relief. Just when everyone thought that Yunjian had let go because of Gu Yunjian's persuasion, Yunjian's red arc curled as she chuckled eerily. It's here. Huh? What's here? Everyone was baffled when they heard Yunjian. They had walked out of the dungeon's entrance and were standing right in front of it. Everyone there, other than Mu Ying, was bewildered when they heard Yunjian's words. Yunjian tossed the pistol she had snatched from Mu Ying back to Mu Ying before looking around a corner. In the next second, she curled her red arc and said, Glenn, come out. Aren't you tired after watching for so long? Glenn? Where was Glenn? Everyone tensed up in shock when they heard Yunjian. Right now, everyone couldn't help but shiver when they heard the word Glenn. Yunjian, can you stop scaring us? There's no Glenn here. If he's really here, why hasn't he come out? Otherwise, we would have been discovered long ago. Black-haired girl thought that her judgment was correct this time. She had just spoken, but before she could finish her words, clap, clap, clap. A round of applause sounded. In the next second, a short, ordinary-looking old man in his 50s or 60s walked out from the corner that Yunjian was looking at. Was this old man who exuded a menacing aura not Glenn? Everyone was shocked when they saw him. Glenn spoke abruptly, his words directed at Yunjian. Chapter 1447. As Glenn spoke, he looked at Yunjian with a probing gaze. As he spoke, Glenn had a cruel smile on his face, as if he already knew something incredible. It was a pity that Yunjian did not fall for it. When she was slaying God, the top secret agent in the international ranking, Yunjian did not mention that she was an old friend of Glenn's. At most, it was Glenn who invited Yunjian to his base and stood behind her with his head bowed like a pug. That was the truth. If Glenn knew Yunjian's identity, he would not have spoken to her in such a tone. Glenn was just putting on an act. Glenn's appearance had frightened everyone present. And Zhengliang, Blackie, and the rest were shocked that Yunjian could see Glenn hiding in the corner. At the same time, they were shocked by what Glenn said. He said that Yunjian looked like the top international secret agent, slaying God. That was an extremely terrifying existence. Even as Interpol, they did not dare to come into contact with that existence. Gu Junjian was the only one who knew that Glenn's suspicion was right. Yunjian was slaying God. Cut the crap. Let's do it, Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She did not say anything else but said directly to Glenn. He, what an interesting young lady. Glenn smiled. His smile was more seductive than anyone else's. Glenn, you're old now. You might be able to live a few more years if you smile less. Stop beating around the bush. Just do it if you have the guts. Yun Jian shouted, provoking Glenn. That was the truth. Yun Jian was provoking Glenn by saying that. You. Glenn was angered by Yun Jian's words. Then, he rolled his eyes and felt that he had heard Yun Jian say that somewhere before. Just as Glenn was trying to recall where he had heard Yun Jian say that, Blackie's voice rang again with a member of the criminal police force from Country H who was also from Country H. What should we do? What should we do? She actually went to provoke Glenn. Doesn't she know we're in Glenn's headquarters? She was so arrogant just because she had the ability. She didn't even let me scold her. I really don't like her, These words were said very softly, as if she was afraid that Glenn would hear her. Moreover, Black Sister and this member of the criminal police brigade who came from Country H with her spoke in their own country's language, Country H. People from H and Z looked almost the same. It was said that dating back to a long time ago, people from H and Z had the same ancestors. However, H country's language was completely different from Chinese. The reason why Miss Blackie spoke to the member of the criminal police brigade from Country H with her in the language of Country H was that she didn't want Yun Jian to understand what she meant. To put it bluntly, Hei Mei completely thought that Yun Jian couldn't speak H language, so she was so bold to say this in front of Yun Jian. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She didn't turn around to look at Miss Blackie, let alone pay attention to her. Instead, she pretended that she really couldn't speak H language. This way, Miss Blackie even more wantonly complained about Yun Jian in H language to the member of the criminal police brigade who came from Country H with her. Just as Miss Blackie was getting more and more excited, Glenn suddenly exclaimed. He looked at Yun Jian and asked loudly, his pupils constricting, "What did you say just now?" "What you said just now is exactly the same as what Slaying God said to me back then." Could it be that you're... Glenn's sudden words made everyone's pupils constrict. However, at this moment, a loud sound of a helicopter came from above Glenn's headquarters. In the next second, a tall and handsome figure jumped down from the helicopter that was flying 7 to 8 meters high. The man who suddenly appeared was so handsome that everyone's eyes lit up the moment he appeared. Chapter 1448. After CE jumped down from the helicopter that was about 7 to 8 meters in the air, he stopped his momentum and straightened his body. He suddenly appeared, and the helicopter suddenly flew over, so everyone present was surprised. However, Yun Jian was not one of them. Yun Jian was only slightly surprised. Why was he here again? Although that was what she thought, Yun Jian's heart was still warm when she saw CE always appearing when she was in danger. Even Glenn was shocked when he saw CE's sudden appearance. He then looked at CE from head to toe. Everyone turned to look at the man who had jumped down from the helicopter that was about 7 to 8 meters in the air. CE looked at Glenn with eyes as sharp as a hawk's after he jumped down. This glance caused Glenn to tremble slightly. He, Glenn, had been in the black market for decades. This was the first time he had felt the sharp gaze of a man in his 20s. His entire body involuntarily trembled for a while. However, CE's thin lips moved. He looked at Glenn with his sharp black eyes and said bluntly, "Glenn, the boss of the European and American underground black market. Who are you?" CE had already seen Yun Jian. However, he did not walk over to her directly this time. Instead, he looked at Glenn. Glenn initially thought that other than Slaying God, who was ranked first on the international secret agent ranking, he would not lose his imposing manner in this world. However, he did not expect that today, not only did a young lady appear and attack his imposing manner, but now there was also a man who had such an imposing manner that he could not even speak. Glenn took a deep breath and replied to CE, "That's right, I'm Glenn. You are, who I am is not important. What's important is that because of what you've done, your position as the boss of the European and American underground black market is gone, Ce said coldly. Yun Jian saw that Ce did not come over, so she walked over to Ce. The people standing beside Yun Jian were stunned. Who was this man? What right did he have to say that Glen's position as the boss of the European and American underground black market was gone? Just as he was thinking this, Yun Jian was already standing in front of Glen. Seeing Yun Jian walk over, Ce leaned to the side and reached out to grab Yun Jian's hand. You, what are you? Why do you say that my identity is gone? Glen didn't believe it and shouted. Ae. Xiao Jian. Gu Junjian came to Yun Jian and Ce and called out softly looking at Yun Jian and Ce. Old Gu, do you know this man? Yu Xiaoluo glanced at Ce and walked over with the others. This is my daughter's man. Gu Junjian said proudly. With Ce around, Gu Junjian was not worried at all. Ce and Yun Jian were capable people. Once they heard that such a handsome man was Yun Jian's man, the people standing beside Gu Junjian looked over. Black Girl's gaze was drawn to Ce the moment she saw him. Glen saw that the people standing in front of him were no longer afraid of him, especially after what Ce said. He was infuriated. In the next second, he growled into the dark, "Come out. Catch them. Catch all of them." Glen was still in the mood to tease Yun Jian just now, but he was only left with rage now. Glen's men, who were originally hiding in the dark, only waited for Glen's order to come out with machine guns on their shoulders. Despite Glen's roar, there was no movement in the dark at all. Where are they? Where are they? Come out, all of you. Glen was panicking now. No matter how capable Glen was when he was young, he was old now and his ability was not what it used to be. If it were not for the group of powerful guards, he was at most a good-for-nothing. Chapter 1449. The words "an Hun organization" struck a chord in everyone's heart. Everyone was stunned by the deadly words. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the tall and handsome man. Ce's words struck fear into everyone's heart. An Hun organization? Even Glen, who was still panicking about his men's whereabouts, lost his voice and screamed. Shock, fear, all of these emotions surged into Glen's heart at that moment. Glen was not an ordinary person. He was the boss of Europe and America's underground black market. He was the symbol of the underground forces in Europe and America. Yu Xiaoluo and the rest who were standing in front were shocked when they heard Glen's scream. This man, or rather, Gu Yunjian's son-in-law, was related to the An Hun organization. Moreover, he could mobilize the An Hun organization to fight Glen just because of this? This meant that Ce was not an ordinary member of the An Hun organization. If that was the case, could it be that Ce was, You're the boss of the An Hun organization. She's the #1 international secret agent, slaying God. Glen was smart. He immediately identified Ce and Yun Jian. An Hun organization's boss? He's the boss of the An Hun organization? And Yun Jian is the #1 international secret agent, slaying God? How is this possible? This is impossible. Blackie's pupils dilated in disbelief. She was so shocked that she shrieked on the spot. Blackie did not think of this at all. Even Gu Yunjian's eyes flickered. Heh, what do you mean impossible? Do you think I don't know slaying God? Her every move can't be imitated by outsiders. Every time she appears, it's a different face. And the An Hun organization. Do you think anyone can start a war with the An Hun organization just because they want to? Only the boss of the An Hun organization can command the entire An Hun organization. Don't think I can't tell. Glen knew that he would not be able to escape death. Slaying God, the top international secret agent ranking, and the leader of An Hun were both here. It would be a miracle if he could survive. The day he stood in this position, Glenn knew that he would have this day. But before he died, he wanted to put Yun Jian and Ce in a difficult position, especially this group of criminal police officers. They probably didn't know. He. In fact, their most wanted criminals were the two people in front of them. Ha ha ha. Since you destroyed me, then I won't let you have it easy either. I, Glenn, don't know anything else in this life, but I'm good at judging people. Every word and action of slaying God matched perfectly with this young lady. She was not slaying God. Bullshit. Glenn was going to say something more. Before Glenn could finish, however, he was shot in his vitals by the muzzle of a silver pistol that Ce pulled out, killing him instantly. On the way, Glenn didn't even have the chance to react. The reason Glenn was able to become the boss of Europe and America's underground black market was because he had a capable assistant named Kennerson. Kennerson's ability was comparable to the third on the international secret agent ranking. However, An Han had no shortage of powerful people like Ce. Any one of the four leaders of An Han could kill Kennerson in a second. Therefore, Glenn would definitely die today. Yun Jian, Yu Xiaoluo and the rest had yet to recover from the shock that Glenn had brought to them. Before they could react, Yun Jian and Ce came forward swiftly and knocked them out before they could react. Muing and Gu Junjian were not among those who were knocked out. Yun Jian only stopped after Yu Xiaoluo, Sister Blackie and the rest drank Qing Yu's secret 3-hour amnesia liquid. They could not have their memories because Yun Jian still needed to live in Country Z in the military academy. The fewer people who knew about her and Ce's identities, the better. It was fortunate that Qing Yu's secret 3-hour amnesia liquid allowed one to forget 3 hours of memories painlessly without any side effects. Xiao Jian, what did you feed them? Gu Junjian asked with his mouth agape. Amnesia liquid. They'll forget everything that happened in the past 3 hours, Yun Jian explained. After Yun Jian's explanation, Ce continued to speak to Gu Junjian. As a member of Interpol, father-in-law, you should be eager to eliminate the forces of Europe and America's underground black market. Now that the underground black market has been completely eradicated, you can report back to Interpol directly. Ce paused before he continued to speak to Gu Junjian with a curvature. This is my first gift to you, father-in-law. I only want Xiao Jian. The way he addressed Ce as his father-in-law was smooth. As he spoke, he tightened his grip on Yun Jian's hand in front of Gu Junjian. Yun Jian's cheeks blushed. Dad can't see anything. Ah, Dad's eyesight is getting worse. Young lady, let's take a walk over there. It's cooler there. Chapter 1450. It was Yun Jian's first time learning that Gu Junjian was a member of Interpol. She had never investigated Gu Junjian before, so she was not sure. However, these were all confidential information. Usually, such identities were not allowed to be revealed in the military. They were not even allowed to reveal a word about it to those closest to them. Watching Gu Junjian leave with Muing, Yun Jian's lips curved into a faint smile. Gu Junjian reported the incident to Interpol in the end. In the end, all the credit was given to Gu Junjian and the rest. This was also Ce and Yun Jian's intention. Yun Jian, in particular, did not want to be crowned with a new title in her daily life. Yun Jian did not want to experience it, especially when she won first place in the military training field and became the center of attention in school. That was why she allowed Gu Junjian and the rest to take all the credit. However, as the only person who managed to escape from the dungeon, the special forces and members of various countries who were rescued from the dungeon later could not be forgotten. It was just that everyone only knew that there was a teenage girl who was the first to successfully escape from the dungeon with someone else. As for who Yun Jian was, it was a figure that would be mentioned in the international news. All in all, an Han group had helped Interpol to eradicate an international cancer. Everyone in Interpol knew about it. However, an Hun group had done a good deed and retreated quickly. Yu Xiaoluo and the rest were in a daze, not knowing what had happened in the past 3 hours. Gu Junjian brushed them off and did not pursue the matter further. That night, Yun Jian and Gu Junjian were sent back to Longmen City by Siyi's helicopter. The next day was Saturday and the food festival was held on Friday. Saturday was Qin Yiru's birthday. On the day she returned home, Yun Jian did not wish Qin Yiru happy birthday early in the morning. She made an appointment with her friends and planned to pick out a gift for Qin Yiru in the afternoon. Gu Junjian did not say anything to Qin Yiru and went shopping with his old comrade. Everyone had left early in the morning. Qin Yiru did not even remember that it was her birthday today. She could not help but wonder why everyone had left so early in the morning. Never in her wildest dreams would she have imagined that this person had not gone out to play, but to buy her a birthday present. Yun Jian made an appointment with Lu Fian. Chen Sini couldn't come out because she had something to do. Lu Fian was the first friend he had met since he was reborn in Xinjiang town. Come to think of it, today was the first time the two of them had met a year ago. Some time ago, Lu Fian was disappointed when she found out that Yun Jian had gone to Min City after she had finally gotten into a school in Longmen City. Yun Jian waited for Lu Fian at the entrance of a coffee shop where they had agreed to meet. After waiting for about half a minute, Lu Fian, who was carrying a small backpack, hurriedly ran over. There was another girl beside Lu Fian. Phew, almost late, haha. Lu Fian chuckled and studied Yun Jian from head to toe before telling her, Xiao Jian, you haven't gotten tanner after a month of military training. Your skin is so good. Lu Fian chortled and introduced the friend beside her to Yun Jian. This is a friend I made in the new school. Her name is Wang Cancan. She has good taste and can help you pick out a birthday present for your mom. Lu Fian introduced Yun Jian as she spoke. Wang Cancan was a friendly girl. After introducing herself to Yun Jian, she struck up a conversation with Yun Jian. Although Wang Cancan looked innocent, she was a tough woman in her bones and yearned for a superhuman life. A girl like her got along well with Yun Jian. She was generous and did not fuss over minor matters. Let's go to the mall later to buy a birthday present. It's a newly opened mall and there's a lot of stuff inside. There's also a tour of the most exciting and terrifying haunted houses in the country. I heard that Fatty Wang, Ergo, and the others from our class are scared out of their wits even though they're so brave. Heh, let's go take a look if we have time after buying our birthday presents, okay? Wang Cancan asked Lu Fian and Yun Jian generously. If Lu Fian and Yun Jian declined, she would not mention it again. Wang Cancan was not one to fuss over trivial matters. Yun Jian recalled what Wang Cancan said. Chen Sini had mentioned the haunted house before and said that she wanted to go. Chapter 1451. Then let's hurry over. Let's take a taxi from here. The mall is quite far from here. Wang Cancan was pleasantly surprised when she heard that. She was carrying a bear cub satchel that matched Lu Fian's. She immediately pinched the bear cub satchel that she was carrying and said excitedly to Lu Fian and Yun Jian. Lu Fian had a bear cub satchel that looked almost the same as Wang Cancan's. This satchel was very small and the workmanship of the satchel was very exquisite. In addition, Lu Fian and Wang Cancan were both wearing small skirts that matched the satchel very well. Both of their figures were quite good and looked like clothes hangers. Coupled with this tight satchel, they were simply beautiful. Wang Cancan stood on the road and hailed a taxi. Then, she, Lu Fian, and Yun Jian sat in the back seat of the taxi. As soon as they got into the car, Wang Cancan had no intention of alienating Yun Jian. She whispered to Lu Fian and Yun Jian. Although she was separated from Yun Jian by Lu Fian, she still said to Yun Jian through Lu Fian, "Trust me. Today, I'll definitely help you choose a gift that your mother will love." Ha! Look. This satchel matches our outfits very well, right? I chose this. Hee hee. Wang Cancan didn't mean anything else. Yun Jian and Lu Fian hadn't seen each other for a long time. Similarly, Lu Fian would definitely have a new circle of friends. Like today, when Lu Fian and Yun Jian met, but brought along her high school classmate and friend, Yun Jian was in a very awkward situation. In a group of 3, there would always be one person who would be awkward, and that person was none other than Yun Jian. Wang Cancan had experienced this feeling of being ridiculed before. She really couldn't bring herself to continue chatting with Lu Fian and then ridicule Yun Jian. It's very beautiful. I trust your judgment. Yun Jian smiled back. Along the way, the 3 of them kept discussing their school life. In fact, Yun Jian was the one who listened. Wang Cancan and Lu Fian kept chatting. Then, as they talked, they asked Yun Jian a question. When Lu Fian mentioned to Wang Cancan that Yun Jian was studying in the military academy, Wang Cancan's eyes lit up as he looked at Yun Jian. Wang Cancan wanted to be a superwoman. The moment she heard that Yun Jian was studying at a military academy, she was so excited that she stepped past Lu Fian and grabbed Yun Jian's hand. Yun Jian, I've always admired soldiers who protect our country. Especially a girl like you who actually chose to go to a military school. I feel that this requires perseverance and courage. It's a very admirable move. Wang Cancan's actions made Yun Jian smile softly, and she replied with 2 sentences. However, just as he said that, the taxi driver's words were heard. We've arrived at the dynamic shopping center. The 3 little sisters can get off now. After paying the fare and alighting, Wang Cancan brought Yun Jian and Lu Fian to a milk tea shop in the dynamic shopping center to buy milk tea. I took a look. The haunted house is in the basement of the dynamic shopping center. Should we go there first or pick a present for your mom first? Wang Cancan asked Yun Jian from her seat. Let's go to the haunted house first. Xiao Jian, are you okay with that? We don't have to carry the present for Auntie when we enter the haunted house. It'll be bad if we're too scared and break the present. What do you think, Xiao Jian? Lu Fian asked for Yun Jian's permission. I'm fine with anything. Yun Jian was not picky. Just as Yun Jian said that, one of the teenagers sitting at the table next to the milk tea shop poked his head over to ask. Hey, are you guys going to the haunted house in the basement of the dynamic shopping center too? I heard that it's super scary. It's the scariest hospital-themed haunted house in the history of the Guinness Book of Records. The haunted house's name is Wuxia Mental Hospital. There's a strict rule there. They say that girls must be accompanied by strong men. You 3 girls might be stopped if you go alone. Chapter 1452. It was true that Wuxia Medical Hospital was the scariest themed hospital in the history of Guinness World Records. The boy did not spout nonsense. It was obvious that he was here to hook up with Yun Jian and the girls. So when he said this, the boy immediately changed his tune. We're going to the haunted house in the basement as well. Aren't you girls afraid to go alone? Why don't we team up and go together? The boy spoke to Yun Jian and the girls in a roguish tone. Wuxia Medical Hospital had been in Longmen City for a week now. It was only a week's time. After a week, the people from Wuxia Medical Hospital would be leaving for the next haunted house location. Due to the reputation of Wuxia Medical Hospital and the fact that it was limited to 1,000 visitors per day, there were many who came from other places just to experience the scariest haunted house in the history of Guinness World Records. Therefore, not only did Longmen City's residents rush to Wuxia Medical Hospital, even people from other provinces came to visit. The place was packed every day. Just as the boy said that, Yun Jian's cold voice rang. No need. Yun Jian's reply made the boy's face freeze. The boy did not expect Yun Jian to reject him so easily. The milk tea is here. Let's pack it up and take it away. There must be a lot of people queuing at the entrance of Sichuan Medical Hospital. Let's line up at the entrance and the milk tea will probably run out by the time it's our turn. Lu Fian had gone to get the milk tea earlier and told Yun Jian and Wang Cancan when she came back from the front desk. Lu Fian had heard half of what the boy said to Yun Jian and Wang Cancan just now. Yun Jian stood up at once while Wang Cancan glared at the guy who tried to strike up a conversation with her before following Yun Jian and Lu Fian to where they were. The boy was obviously deflated. He touched the bridge of his nose and smiled innocently at the boy and girl sitting beside him. After Yun Jian and the other two left, another boy, who was obviously the boy's brother, put his arm around the boy's shoulder and teased him with a laugh. "Zhou Dongshuan, I didn't expect you to fail at picking up girls. Ha ha ha. Look, those 3 girls didn't even look at you. No matter what, you're still the school hunk of second high. How come you don't even have this bit of charm today?" The boy teased the boy named Zhou Dongshuan. "Go go go. Surnamed Lu, don't talk too much. And those 3 girls. I believe we'll meet them again later." The boy named Zhou Dongshuan blinked his eyes and said expectantly. Yun Jian and the other 2 had already arrived at the basement. Sichuan Medical Hospital had built the temporary office in the basement. The registration was done there, and there was a queue to get in. After buying the tickets and lining up, Wang Cancan and Lu Fian were both excited and scared. Sipping the milk tea in her hand, Wang Cancan said to Yun Jian and Lu Fian, "Are you guys scared? Once I think about how we're going to enter the haunted house, my heart squeezes." Wang Cancan had just finished speaking when she saw Yun Jian acting like it was none of her business. She paused and could not help asking in surprise, "What's the matter? Aren't you scared?" Sichuan Medical Hospital is the scariest hospital-themed haunted house in history. I heard that many people wet their pants inside. Scared? Why should I be scared? Yun Jian looked at Wang Cancan and Lu Fian's nervous and scared faces and was confused. Because this is a haunted house. Little girl, if you're scared, don't hold it in. Scream when you need to. Young people, don't pretend to be calm. Chapter 1453. Even the auntie next to them could not stand it anymore. The auntie was holding the hand of her 12-year-old daughter because it was almost their turn to enter Sichuan Mental Hospital. She was already panicking enough, and now she heard Yun Jian's casual words. The auntie had nowhere to vent her anger, so she used a voice that sounded like a nosy woman to scold Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian ignored her. We meet again. Ladies, looks like we are quite fated to meet again. When the line started to dwindle, a ruffian male voice came from behind them. The man's voice was ruffian, but Yun Jian could recognize him from the voice. She did not even need to turn to know who the ruffian voice behind her, Lu Fian, and Wang Cancan belonged to. Wasn't this the voice of the man who had tried to flirt with them at the milk tea shop? Zhou Dongshuan looked at Yun Jian's group happily. He did not expect to run into Yun Jian's group again so soon. Regarding the fact that they were about to enter the haunted house, everyone present expressed their fear. However, as a man of honor, Zhou Dongshuan felt like he should act bravely before the girls. Especially in such a scary haunted house, if the girls were scared, they might even crawl into his arms. Just the thought of it was enough to make him excited. Therefore, Zhou Dongshuan started to flirt with Yun Jian's group even more. "I'm not lying to you. The girls here really don't allow us to enter directly. Sichuan Mental Hospital is different from other haunted houses. It is the scariest haunted house in history with a hospital theme. I heard someone was scared to death here before. Therefore, the girls have to be accompanied by strong men." Zhou Dongshuan was not lying about that. Yun Jian had already seen it from the notice board in the distance. She pursed her lips. "Then, can you bring us in with you?" Just bring us in, and we'll split up once we're inside, Wang Cancan asked Zhou Dongxuan. Sure. We have 5 people here. The 3 of you can form a team and go in. Zhou Dongxuan said generously. At the same time, he glanced at Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't say anything this time. Zhou Dongxuan was the school hunk of Longmen City's No. 2 high school. A guy like him who looked handsome to others was bound to be pursued by girls. For example, the 2 girls who had been following Zhou Dongxuan were Zhou Dongxuan's admirers. However, it was a pity that these 2 girls' looks were very ordinary. Usually, they relied on heavy makeup to support their looks and often mingled with Zhou Dongxuan's group. When walking outside to play, boys like Zhou Dongxuan, who had strong self-esteem, liked to bring 2 girls along at all times, even if they didn't like the girls. They only brought the girls because they could show off in front of the girls at any time. However, Zhou Dongxuan now had better candidates, and that was Yun Jian and the other 2. Not only were Yun Jian and the girls prettier than the 2 girls he brought along, they were also pretty and attractive. It made Zhou Dongxuan want to appear like a hero saving the damsel in distress in the haunted house when the trio wanted to hide under the floorboards out of fear. TSK, TSK. Zhou Dongxuan was thrilled just thinking about it. Especially showing off that he was not afraid of any ghosts in the haunted house to show off his masculinity. How fun could this be? Zhou Dongxuan was the school hunk of Longmen City's No. 2 high school after all. Although the 2 girls who came with him looked average, they were dressed rather fashionably with heavy makeup. Both of them wanted to attract Zhou Dongxuan's attention, but they did not expect him to invite Yun Jian and the girls. This caused the jealousy of the 2 girls to instantly swell. One of the girls, who had red lips and a thick layer of foundation, said to Zhou Dongxuan in an unconvinced tone, "What are you doing? Dongxuan, why did you invite them to come with us? They look so timid. They'll probably scream once they go in. What if they're too scared to leave the haunted house? They'll drag us down. Wang Xiaoyu, say one more word and you'll leave on your own." Zhou Dongxuan roared at the girl with a dark face. Dongxuan. Wang Xiaoyu was enraged when she heard him. She did not say anything else after that. Soon, it was Yun Jian and the girls' turn to enter the haunted house. The haunted house had a rule that the girls had to be accompanied by strong men. Zhou Dongxuan's group of 5 consisted of 2 girls and 3 guys. The 3 guys could be considered strong men. There were usually 4 to 6 people entering, but Zhou Dongxuan's group, including Yun Jian and the girls, had a total of 8 people. The staff of Zhuchuan Medical Hospital gave it some thought and agreed. They then distributed 2 sets of tools to Yun Jian and the girls. 2 flashlights and 2 shields. Yun Jian took one of the flashlights. As for the shields, Yun Jian gave them to Lu Fian and Wang Cancan. Just like that, the 8 of them walked into the dark entrance of the haunted house. The haunted house took up 3 floors of basement and the whole structure was based on the theme of a hospital. Therefore, the moment they stepped in, they could feel a chill coming from inside. Zhou Dongxuan and the others shuddered, and then slowly continued to walk forward. Yun Jian walked lazily like she was taking a stroll in her own backyard. Yun Jian's action shocked Zhou Dongxuan, but it also caused Wang Xiaoyu to grumble, Stop acting so mysterious. Let's see how long you can last." Just as he finished speaking, a woman covered in blood suddenly stood up from a large bathtub covered in blood in front of everyone. Ah! 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 No one expected a woman covered in blood to stand up from the empty bathtub. At this time, Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Xiaoyu, and the girls were so shocked by the sudden appearance of the woman that they screamed and covered their mouths. When everyone looked up, they saw that Yun Jian was not at all intimidated by the woman who was covered in blood. Instead, she went to the woman and studied her from head to toe before she grinned. Chapter 1454. Yun Jian's words shocked the woman who had appeared out of nowhere, who was also the staff member. Usually, when a student of Yun Jian's age suddenly saw a female ghost emerging from the bathtub with blood all over her face, their reaction would have been as intense as Zhou Dongxuan and Wang Qiaoyu's. Even Lu Fian and Wang Cancan who came with Yun Jian could not help screaming when they saw the female ghost. One of the main reasons why Sichuan Medical Hospital was so scary was that the staff members acted as ghosts very realistically. The makeup technology turned the workers from normal humans into zombies or zombies. In fact, inside the haunted house, the workers would use the method of zombies to chase after the visitors, giving the visitors the feeling that they were in the haunted house. Sichuan Medical Hospital, Longmen City Station, was a large-scale haunted house that toured the country. There were dozens of medical scenes, abandoned hospitals, gory scenes, and insane doctors, nurses, and directors. Zombies crisscrossed, maze-like routes, terrifying traps, and secret passages. The visitors had to be on high alert during the game because there was no telling when the ghost would appear before them as zombies were everywhere. The female ghost hiding in the bleeding bathtub was just the beginning. In spite of it, the female ghost hiding in the bathtub was enough to scare everyone to death. Zhou Dongxuan and the other two boys who wanted to show off in front of the girls shrieked like the girls. When Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the rest, including Lu Fian and Wang Cancan heard that Yun Jian was not afraid of the female ghost's sudden appearance, she even went up to reprimand the ghost for not being scary enough. This immediately eased the tension in the atmosphere. Zhou Dongxuan and the rest who were scared half to death just now snapped back to reality. Due to Yun Jian's words, the female ghost who was disguised as a staff member standing in the bathtub was stunned. She was completely stunned. After all, which girl who came to a haunted house to play did not scream or panic when she suddenly saw a ghost or hide behind a man to beg for protection? Instead, the ghost stood in front of her and told her that there was not enough blood? How could such makeup skills tell that she was a staff member at once? How was this little girl supposed to act like a little girl? This time, it was the staff member who was acting as a ghost who was taken aback by Yun Jian. Even though they knew that the female ghost standing in the bathtub was a worker in disguise, Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others were too scared to approach Yun Jian. Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, on the other hand, came to stand beside Yun Jian one after another when they snapped out of it. You're crazy. We came to come to the haunted house to have fun. If you say it like this, it won't be fun anymore. Wang Qiaoyu grabbed Yun Jian's ponytail and screamed. Wang Qiaoyu was already unhappy with Yun Jian, so she found an opportunity to scold Yun Jian. What are you talking about? What right do you have to criticize Yun Jian? When we came in, I said that we would split up after entering the haunted house. Now, you can go in your own group, and the three of us will go in a group. Don't walk together. Wang Cancan saw that Wang Qiaoyu was obviously not friendly to Yun Jian, so she shouted at Wang Qiaoyu, Zhou Dongxuan, and the others. Then she pulled Yun Jian and Lu Fian to the side. After taking 2 steps, Zhou Dongxuan urged them to stay. Hey, don't. Let's go together. My classmate didn't do it on purpose. I'll teach her a lesson. Then, Zhou Dongxuan turned around and scolded Wang Qiaoyu. This scolding indeed made Wang Qiaoyu shut her mouth, but it made her even angrier at Yun Jian and the other two. Wang Cancan wanted to pull Yun Jian and Lu Fian away, but looking at the darkness ahead and the zombies that could jump out at any time, she paused and followed Zhou Dongxuan. The group of people continued to move forward. On the way, Zhou Dongxuan asked Yun Jian, "Aren't you afraid?" "Why should I be afraid? This level of haunted house is not at the same level as Fujijiu haunted house. Fujijiu haunted house is not scary at all. This level of haunted house can't scare people." Yun Jian said this sentence very calmly. However, these words were very different in the ears of Wang Qiaoyu and the others. Fujijiu Haunted House was recognized as the world's most terrifying haunted house. Have you been to Fujijiu Haunted House? Hehe, don't talk to us as if you've been everywhere, okay? You make it sound like you've really been to Fujijiu Haunted House. Chapter 1455. Wang Qiaoyu did not believe that Yun Jian had been to Fujijiu Haunted House. After all, it was widely acknowledged as the scariest haunted house in the world. Generally, to explore a large-scale haunted house like Fujijiu Haunted House, not only did one need wealth, but more importantly, courage. Perhaps Wuxia Medical Hospital was scary enough and was widely acknowledged as the scariest mobile haunted house, but it was mobile after all. The setting was improvised. Fujijiu Haunted House, however, was different. Fujiji Haunted House used an abandoned local hospital as its backdrop, but the difference was that Fujiji Haunted House had chosen an abandoned hospital as its backdrop. Furthermore, the theme of the haunted house was also a hospital, so the illusion created in real life was naturally different from Saga Hospital, which was a makeshift hospital. There were people who were scared to death in Fujijiu Haunted House every year, but many were willing to sign up for the adventure. Putting aside whether Yun Jian dared to go or not, Fujijiu Haunted House was located overseas after all, and Yun Jian did not look like a rich person at all. That was why Zhang Qiaoyu dared to speak to Yun Jian in such a tone just now. It doesn't matter if I've been there or not. What's important is that I know now that you've definitely not been there. Yun Jian held the flashlight in the dark, her lips curling into a mocking smirk. Yun Jian's words were profound, and if one listened carefully, was she not implying that Wang Qiaoyu was ignorant? Wang Qiaoyu was the kind of girl who didn't take her studies seriously in school. She hung out with a group of hooligans in society and hung out with boys all day long. She smoked and drank and felt that she was special, as if she was the only one in the world who was the best. Therefore, once Yun Jian said that, Wang Qiaoyu spat in anger. Do you have a death wish? Do you know who I am? My brother works for Longmen City's top mafia group, Falcon Hall. He's in the underworld. You'd better know your place. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Wang Qiaoyu threatened Yun Jian right away. Wang Qiaoyu's brother was not her biological brother. It could be said that he was just a brother she recognized in the underworld. This kind of familial relationship was very popular among Wang Qiaoyu's group. Wang Qiaoyu. I won't invite you to play with us anymore. Zhou Dongxuan yelled at Wang Qiaoyu before Yun Jian could reply. He had finally managed to persuade Yun Jian and the others to stay with them. In the end, with Wang Qiaoyu's provocation, what if Yun Jian and the others refused to leave with them? After Wang Qiaoyu was yelled at by Zhou Dongxuan, she immediately shut her mouth. Wang Qiaoyu wanted to pursue Zhou Dongxuan, so Zhou Dongxuan's words were fatal to her. In spite of it, Wang Qiaoyu loathed Yun Jian even more. At this time, they had already walked a long way and arrived at a new theme room. The new theme room was a morgue. As soon as they arrived, Wang Qiaoyu and the others, who were still talking, immediately tensed up and didn't dare to go forward. Even though he knew that this was a haunted house, he was still afraid. 3 beds appeared in front of everyone. There were 3 people lying on the beds, and each of them was covered with a white cloth. The surrounding background was painted with horrifying images. Just the torchlight alone was enough to send chills down one's spine. The group stopped in their tracks in fright, not daring to go forward. Because no one knew what was lying on the 3 beds. In addition, there was no light here, so they could only rely on the torchlight to illuminate their surroundings. Go! Go, go, go! Follow me, follow me! Zhou Dongxuan said in a trembling voice. He looked to the side and told Yun Jian, don't be scared, just follow me. She was gone when he turned around. Ah, she! Wang Qiaoyu's exclamation came from the side. Chapter 1456. Normal girls dared not linger in a haunted house's morgue for too long. Some girls would even clutch their boyfriend's clothes tightly and bury their heads in their boyfriend's arms, crying coquettishly, "It's too scary. Sob sob sob, I don't want to come to this haunted house anymore." What about Yun Jian? Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others did not even dare to move forward out of fear, but Yun Jian was different. She walked over and lifted the white cloth without a word. Usually, the scariest thing when passing by a morgue was the 3 beds where the corpses, under the white cloth, suddenly came alive. The sense of terror tugged at everyone's heartstrings, enough to scare them out of their wits. Not only was Yun Jian unafraid, she walked over and lifted the white cloth herself. This scene caused Wang Qiaoyu to let out a loud, "Ah." Even Zhou Dongxuan's face fell from the shock. What lay under the white cloth was a crazed zombie. It was obvious that any living ghost in a haunted house was disguised by the staff. In spite of it, this zombie's disguise was surprisingly realistic. Not only was the makeup realistic, the face was as pale as a dead person's and its eyes were bulging. Just looking at it was enough to send chills down one's spine. Hiss. Hiss. What was even scarier was that it was growling like a zombie. Ah. Ah. Zombie. It's a zombie. Wang Qiaoyu was so scared that she clutched her dress tightly. She took 2 steps back and almost fell onto Zhou Dongxuan. The moment Yun Jian lifted the white cloth, the zombie lunged at Yun Jian and growled in terror. Even Zhou Dongxuan was pale from fright. His foot froze on the spot. Even his plan to save the damsel in distress was tossed to the back of his mind. Ah! Xiao Jian. Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, on the other hand, forgot that they were in a haunted house after Lu Fian's shout. Perhaps it was because the zombie's acting was too realistic, the two of them did not think twice and rushed towards Yun Jian, trying to save Yun Jian. That zombie was obviously a staff member in disguise, but it was so realistic that everyone present believed that it was a real zombie. At least, Lu Fian and Wang Cancan really thought they had seen a ghost. They had forgotten that they were inside a haunted house and were focused on saving Yun Jian. Seeing this, Yun Jian only slightly narrowed her eyes. Be careful. Zhou Dongxuan really wanted to rush up and save the damsel in distress, but he didn't dare. It was as if his foot was fixed in place with glue, and he couldn't lift it up. He could only blame this zombie for being too realistic. He even felt scared when he looked directly at this zombie, not to mention rushing up to save the damsel in distress. The series of events happened in a short 5 seconds. Far away, where everyone could see, just as Yun Jian lifted the white cloth, the zombie pounced on Yun Jian. The scene shocked everyone present. In spite of it, something even more shocking happened. Just as the zombie was about to pounce on Yun Jian reached out and grabbed the zombie's collar accurately without even looking up, yanking the zombie to the side forcefully. The zombie fell to the ground after being pulled by Yun Jian and quickly got up, looking at Yun Jian as if she was a ghost before running away. He didn't need to look to know that the zombie was male. Needless to say, this male was a staff member. In the end, Yun Jian was so strong that she pulled the male staff to the side. More importantly, they heard from others that it was the zombies that chased them when they entered the haunted house. Why was it that Yun Jian was the one who scared the zombies away? Chapter 1457. Xiao Jian. LV Fian and Wang Cancan had already reached Yun Jian. LV Fian grabbed Yun Jian's hand and shouted, "Are you okay? Why would the zombies in the haunted house attack people? Why haven't I heard of it before?" Wang Cancan asked in surprise as she stood beside Yun Jian. Zhuochuan Medical Hospital is famous because its haunted house allows visitors to experience the most realistic sense of horror. Of course, these staff members disguised as zombies will only touch us at most to scare us. They won't hurt us. It was only then that Zhou Dongxuan snapped out of his shock when he saw the staff member who was disguised as a zombie scampering out of the room in fear of Yunjian. After waiting for a while and making sure that the other two zombies would not come out of the other two beds, Zhou Dongxuan went to Yunjian and spoke. As he spoke, when he reached Yunjian and saw Yunjian looking at him, Zhou Dongxuan even flashed a smile at Yunjian. In spite of it, Yunjian was not looking at him. She turned and her gaze paused on LV Fian and Wang Cancan's faces. "Let's go. Grab my clothes if you're scared." Yunjian continued to walk toward the haunted house's passageway as she spoke. "Hey, aren't you guys going to wait for us?" Zhou Dongxuan called out to Yunjian when he saw that Yunjian was leading LV Fian and Wang Cancan forward without any intention of paying attention to them. "There's no need for that." Yunjian did not even look at Zhou Dongxuan who was behind her. She gave a curt reply and strode forward with LV Fian and Wang Cancan. Zhou Dongxuan wanted to follow but his friend pulled him back and said, "Dongxuan, are you dumb? Can't you tell that the girl doesn't want you to follow?" Zhou Dongxuan could only watch as Yunjian slipped away from him. With Yunjian leading the way, Lu Fian and Wang Cancan had nothing to say no matter how frightened they were. Moreover, whenever a group of zombies or ghosts appeared, they would be frightened by Yunjian's words or her shocking actions. Some of them even covered their heads and ran away. "Damn, Yunjian, you're too amazing." She was like a superwoman, not afraid of any demons or ghosts. "You're my idol." Wang Cancan gestured exaggeratedly and said to Yunjian. Wang Cancan had always hoped that she could become a superwoman, but she also knew that it was all just a fantasy. But Yunjian's stunning performance just now made Wang Cancan feel as if he had seen a superwoman. Even his heart trembled. "Yunjian, Yunjian, from now on, you're my idol." When Wang Cancan said this, Yunjian, Wang Cancan, and Lu Fian were already sitting in the coffee shop. Yunjian placed an Italian coffee in front of her. Her slender index finger hooked the semicircular curve of the coffee cup and her red lips curved up slightly. Hey, did you guys hear? The Zhuochuan Mental Hospital in the basement of the mall stopped all visitors from entering halfway. Even the visitors who bought tickets were stopped. Damn, that's so cruel. What the hell is going on? Hey, you don't know. I have first-hand news here. I heard that a young girl just gave the staff of Zhuochuan Mental Hospital a huge scare. A few of the staff members who were acting as ghosts even complained that the ghosts they were acting as were too unrealistic and were severely criticized. In the end, the staff refused to work and all of them said that they wanted to go on strike. My God, which family is this young girl from? She's so fierce. That's so scary. People are scared half to death when they enter a haunted house, but she scared the ghosts so much that they refused to work. Chapter 1458. Perhaps because this was such a rare occurrence, it had already spread among the customers in the cafe. The discussion was endless, and they all shared the same topic. A teenage girl had just entered Zhuochuan Mental Hospital, and she had scared the workers who were dressed up as ghosts into going on strike. Now, even the customers who had bought tickets could not enter Zhuochuan Mental Hospital because the workers had gone on strike. Without the workers acting as ghosts or zombies, even if the visitors entered the haunted house, they would not be able to experience the real terror. If more visitors entered the haunted house, Zhuochuan Mental Hospital's reputation would be ruined. Therefore, they decided to temporarily close the haunted house. After all, Zhuochuan Mental Hospital was a world-famous haunted house, and protecting its reputation was more important than losing a few hundred visitors' ticket money. The chatter of the people around her drifted into Yunjian's ears without missing a word. In response, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. At this time, Wang Cancan was holding a cup of tea. She slowly put the cup of espresso to her lips and took a sip. Hearing the discussion around her, Wang Cancan spat out the coffee in her mouth. Thankfully, just as the coffee was about to spill, Wang Cancan lowered her head in time, and the mouthful of coffee only landed on the floor. What are the people talking about? The person they were talking about who scared the ghost half to death was none other than Yun Jian. That person was none other than Yun Jian. Other than Yun Jian, who else could it be? Wang Cancan instantly stood up from his seat in shock, looking as if he had seen a ghost. The person they're talking about is not little. Lu Fian was about to say Yun Jian's name when an unfriendly voice came from behind her. Lu Fian? Wang Cancan? Huh, so it's you two cowards? A loud voice came from behind. It was a woman's voice. Her tone was very unfriendly, as if LV Fian and Wang Cancan owed her millions of dollars. Suddenly, LV Fian and Wang Cancan heard a familiar voice and turned around to look at the person standing behind them. Yun Jian was sitting opposite LV Fian and Wang Cancan, so she could clearly see the appearance of the girl standing behind LV Fian and Wang Cancan. She was a girl with delicate features. She had a small face, big eyes, and a straight nose. No matter how you looked at her, her facial features were very three-dimensional. Just by looking at this kind of girl, one would think that she was a good girl. But how could one expect such a beautiful girl to say such unkind words? This made Yun Jian raise her eyebrows slightly. Chen Limei? Why are you here? Wang Cancan turned around. When she saw the girl's face, she couldn't help but cry out in shock. Hee, why can't I be here when you're here? Last week, you said you were going to Sichuan Mental Hospital to play. Are you staying here because you don't have the courage to go to the basement? You said you were so powerful last week, but now you're looking at it. Are your legs already shaking before you even enter? Also, the person who accompanied me to the haunted house today is Senior Duan Ming. Oh, he. As soon as the girl called Chen Limei finished speaking, Wang Cancan immediately raised her voice. You actually let Senior Duan Ming accompany you to the haunted house to play. When the words Senior Duan Ming were mentioned, Yun Jian saw that Wang Cancan's eyes instantly lit up. It was the kind of light that gave birth to love. Chapter 1459. Chen Limei was Wang Cancan and Lu Fian's classmate. Chen Limei, Wang Cancan, and Lu Fian usually minded their own business and did not get along or interact with each other. But the problem was that Chen Limei and Wang Cancan both secretly liked that Senior Duan Ming. Chen Limei and Wang Cancan were classmates, and as for the Senior Duan Ming that Chen Limei mentioned, he was in the second year of high school. Because of Senior Duan Ming, Chen Limei and Wang Cancan's relationship in class worsened. There was even one time when they got into a fight in the classroom. Wang Cancan and Duan Ming were in the same junior high school. Wang Cancan liked Duan Ming since the first year, but she dared not confess. In the end, when she finally got into the same high school as Duan Ming, Chen Limei began to pursue him. Although Duan Ming had a few girlfriends, Wang Cancan still liked him because she always felt that Duan Ming was just playing around with those girls. Last week, Wang Cancan and Chen Limei had exchanged insults in school. Chen Limei even provoked her by saying that if she had the guts, she should let Wang Cancan walk around Sichuan Medical Hospital that had just moved into Longmen City recently. Wang Cancan went as she pleased. Who was afraid of whom? This was how the grudge was resolved. Wang Cancan did not expect to run into Chen Limei here, nor did she expect her to be so bold as to ask Senior Duan Ming out. You. Just as Wang Cancan wanted to say a few words of rebuttal, Chen Limei said cockily, yesterday, Senior Duan Ming and I. We also went out shopping. Oh, he, my Senior Duan Ming got a room in a hotel, and then we already. Impossible. Senior Duan Ming would never do such a thing with you. You're lying. Wang Cancan shouted before Chen Limei could finish. To Wang Cancan, Senior Duan Ming was her everything. She had a crush on Senior Duan Ming since the first year of junior high, and it had been 3 whole years now. It was not that she had not interacted with Senior Duan Ming in these 3 years, but when was he not acting like a gentleman? He was not the kind of person who would play around with women like Chen Limei said. Oh, ha ha ha. Chen Limei's smile widened when she saw Wang Cancan's reaction. Yun Jian was sitting opposite Wang Cancan. Wang Cancan turned her head and looked at Chen Limei. Yun Jian could see their every word and action clearly. Humph, in any case, Senior Duan Ming will be accompanying me into the haunted house later. From what I see, you guys are so scared that you don't even dare to enter Wuxia Mental Hospital's main entrance, right? Ha ha ha. Chen Limei had no idea that Wang Cancan had already visited the haunted house with Yun Jian and Lu Fian. Her tone was laced with mockery. When she saw Yun Jian, who was sitting opposite Wang Cancan and Lu Fian, looking as exquisite and beautiful as a fairy, Chen Limei's unhappy expression immediately appeared. In the past, Chen Limei looked like a real fairy when she stood in the crowd. However, the moment she saw Yun Jian's face, even Chen Limei had to admit that she was inferior to Yun Jian. Yo, who is this? Is Wang Cancan your friend? Heh, she looks so thin and weak, is she also going to Wuxia Mental Hospital? That's a haunted house, it's very, very scary. I think a girl like her, before she even enters the haunted house, her feet should be shaking like a spring, right? Ha ha ha. Chen Limei pointed at Yun Jian. Due to Yun Jian's beauty and the fact that she was Wang Cancan's friend, Chen Limei harbored no good intentions toward her. She sneered at her the moment she opened her mouth, spewing all the insults she could think of. You guys are here? I finally found you. Just now, you guys didn't wait for us and left the haunted house by yourself. I thought you guys had already left. Chapter 1460. Just as Chen Limei was questioning Yun Jian's ability, Zhou Dongxuan's voice suddenly rang out from the haunted house with Yun Jian's group. Hearing this, Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. Chen Limei saw that Yun Jian did not refute her immediately, so she thought that Yun Jian had nothing to say. Yun Jian was afraid of entering the haunted house. There was no mistake about that. However, Chen Limei had miscalculated, completely miscalculated. When Zhou Dongxuan's voice rang out, Chen Limei was still confused. What's going on? What happened? Who startled the staff? Now, the workers at the haunted house refused to work? Yun Jian? Could Yun Jian be referring to her? Before this, Chen Limei did not know that Yun Jian's name was Yun Jian because no one had introduced her to Chen Limei. Following the voice, Chen Limei's eyes slowly moved from Zhou Dongxuan, who had suddenly appeared, to Yun Jian. Shock, and fear were on the verge of erupting. What scared the workers at the haunted house? What is this? When Chen Limei saw Zhou Dongxuan, who had suddenly appeared, and the group of people behind him, she muttered softly. Chen Limei had a bad feeling because she saw the people around the coffee shop turn their eyes to Yun Jian after hearing Zhou Dongxuan mention Yun Jian. All of them widened their eyes and looked as if they had seen a ghost. TSK, isn't it just a small matter? Is there a need to make such a big fuss? She is Yun Jian. Humph, she scared the workers at Wuxia Mental Hospital away, and now the haunted house is not open. There are also a bunch of visitors who came from afar waiting to enter the haunted house. This is all Yun Jian's fault. Humph, I knew she was a troublemaker who came out to harm people. Tui. How disgusting. Zhang Qiaoyu had been unhappy with Yun Jian since the beginning, and now it was even worse. He had just convinced Zhou Dongxuan not to look for Yun Jian, but now? When Zhou Dongxuan got out of the haunted house just now and heard that the staff were quitting and were about to go on strike because of Yun Jian, he started looking for her everywhere like a rabid dog. As a result, Zhang Qiaoyu disliked Yun Jian even more. Seeing that Chen Limei was asking about what had happened just now, Zhang Qiaoyu was the first to stand up and say it. Her tone was strange, and she said it purely to make Chen Limei hate Yun Jian. Chen Limei had just said that Yun Jian was too cowardly to even go to a haunted house. Hearing Wang Qiaoyu's words, Chen Limei felt nothing but shock and fear. What? She actually entered a haunted house and scared the workers to the point that they went on strike? Are you joking? Isn't Sichuan Medical Hospital the scariest themed hospital in the history of the Guinness Book of Records? How could she be the one who scared the workers to the point that they went on strike? Shouldn't it be the workers disguised as ghosts who scared her to death? Chen Limei was already rooted to the spot, looking no different from an idiot who was in a daze. The people around the coffee shop were stunned as well, especially those who were gossiping about Yun Jian just now. Wang Qiaoyu did not expect that not only did her words fail to make Yun Jian hated, the people around her were instead in an uproar about her capabilities. Wang Qiaoyu was annoyed. She was about to speak when she saw a man in torn pants and a trendy golden top that looked like it could blind one's eyes coming in. The man was in his early 20s, but his hair was dyed a golden mohawk that was so bright it could blind one's eyes. Wang Qiaoyu's eyes shone when she saw the man. She quickly waved at the man and called out, "Brother." This was her brother, the one who worked under Longmen City's top mafia group, Falcon Hall. He was also Wang Qiaoyu's pride. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.